Willy Donick.
Mason, touchdown, Tennessee.
And former NFL wide receiver Derek Mason on Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game, and on the Game Nashville app.
This is a new level of geek you got going on here.
What's going on, Nashville? Good Thursday. Welcome into Chase, Willy, and D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. We are streaming on the Game Nashville app. You can also watch us on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, all of those things. Brought to you by the law offices of Amanda Gentry, Chase McCabe, Willy Donick, Derek Mason here with you. Nick Keyser, our producer behind the glass. Gentlemen, how we doing?
Doing well. Everything's going well except that that traffic, man. Good Lord, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, traffic is
both
not good
ways on, what is it, 24?
Yeah, well, of course it's 24.
Yeah,
it's always 24.
But it's
40
just 40 and 24,
yeah. I can tell you about 40.
It is bad. So anyone that's thinking about getting on 24 or 40, you might want to think about an alternate route.
Yeah, get your ways going.
Exactly, because it is. If you got somewhere to be in the next 30 minutes and you're about to hop on, don't do it. Don't do it.
Just chill, listen to us, or watch us, or, whatever.
Absolutely.
Fantastic night last night at Boomba's East for our Stars Trivia Night. All three of us were there. Of course, Willy, the trivia master, had all the questions. Derek and I were on a team, and we were doing pretty good until the end, and then we wagered all our points. And I don't know.
But we had to.
We did, but I don't know how we missed that last question.
Yeah,
I was really disappointed.
That last question was
rocky.
It was rocky. We put down Hoosiers.
I know.
And we never thought
was late 80s.
We never
I gave
thought
you the decade.
Rocky. We never thought Rocky. Because you said 70 and I was thinking like 1970.
Well, and when you said
70s.
the question was the first sports movie to win Best Picture.
Yeah.
And I just, for whatever reason, didn't think boxing.
Yeah.
I just
Rocky was nowhere. Because I'm thinking that wasn't if I'm thinking about great acting, that wasn't it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
it's an awesome movie.
It's a great movie, yes.
Like if you go back and watch it, Rocky 2, 3, 4, more just like fun, entertaining action movie. But Rocky is actually a good film.
Yeah.
And obviously people thought so back then because it won the Oscar. So it's interesting. You guys did the final. It was kind of like Final Jeopardy. You bet all the points.
Yeah. Well, not all. We saved 1 point.
Yeah, you saved 1 point, so you didn't finish last.
Exactly.
My son's team was in second place going into the last thing, but they only bet 7 points. They didn't have confidence in the last topic.
Oh, wow.
Had they bet all their points, like
You'd
you
have
guys,
won.
they would have been in the winning prizes.
Oh, okay.
Because the top 3 teams won, they would have finished top 3. So they were upset because they got the question right. But they only got 7 points.
Oh, man.
So they got passed by other teams.
Hey, you either go big or you go home, man.
Yeah, so that's what I told him. I told him,
Exactly.
when you got to lose, man, it's not your money you're putting down. It's just points. You got to go for it.
Yeah.
He was mad. He was still mad this morning.
Was
Yeah, he was on the way to school. He goes, come on. We answered more questions right than most of these other teams. Like, yeah, well, that's the
not
rules,
the way
man.
it is. Hey,
Yeah.
it's not the way it goes. So.
but it was awesome. Raised some great money for Stars, and your wife Erin was the life of the party as usual.
Oh, I'll tell you, Stars put on a great show. Boomba's East was great, working with us with the sound system and everything. Cliff McCardle from our promotion staff did a fantastic job. So it was just a really well put together event. I was excited about it. I didn't have to do that much. There were so many people that helped put everything in place. Thanks to all our listeners that came in and were a part of it. We had 25 teams. We started with 25. For some reason, one team bailed after one round. Like they just gave up early. I was like, what happened? We were getting 25 pieces of paper every round, and all of a sudden after one round we got down to 24. I was like, what happened to the other team? But that's a really good number for us. It was a full house at Boomba's. I mean, it was a great atmosphere in there. And Boomba's totally rebuilt since the tornado of 2020. Looks great in there. We've done a lot of shows in there before as a station. So all you East Siders, go over there. It's a great place to watch the games. They had the package of MLB games. They had Dodgers, Brewers on. I mean, whatever game you want to watch, they've got it in there.
Yeah, so awesome event. Glad we could all be a part of it, and raise money for a great organization. Good to see Hal Gill, Lindsey Rowley representing the Predators.
They represented all right.
Skillsy never changed. That's really the best way to put it.
He came in hot.
Yeah, yes, he did.
The look on your face, though. For those of you that weren't there, Hal Gill did not. He knew he was
keep
not
it PG.
He knew he was not on the radio, so
Yeah.
he the filter was off, and the look on Willy Donnick's face when Hal, in a Boston accent, drops an F-bomb in the middle of this restaurant.
I put Max Hers on his team with Lindsey. Lindsey's cousin Cassie. I thought that was a really good group of four. I was like, this will be good. We'll check in with them from time to time. It'll be some comic relief. And then I was not going back to Hal after that first round on the microphone.
You learned your lesson the hard way.
Yes, I did. I learned the hard way.
You learned your lesson. But a fun night no matter what. Titans back on the practice field today. The Cardinals are going to practice at Vanderbilt. So it's not a joint practice. They're still in town, but yesterday was the only day that they were doing the joint practices. Ryan Tannehill talked yesterday, inconsistencies, that they want to be more consistent. He did throw an interception in the back of the end zone. I don't make that much of a big deal about that, but you did get the sense from both Tannehill and Mike Vrabel that they didn't love the practice overall for the Titans yesterday. Thought they were a little sloppy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure Coach Vrabel knew one of these practices was coming. I mean, when you're in camp, at least, when I was playing, and this is when they had 2 days, and camp was grueling. You knew you get in the middle of the camp, practice was going to start slowing down some, and you were going to have one of those practices, whether it be against your own defense or against another opponent that they bring in. You knew you were just going to have one of those practices where things just didn't go well. And, your players' bodies, just couldn't get going. And you were going to have some inconsistency. So, Tannehill pointed it out. Vrabel, kind of reworded it. During his presser. But I'm sure they all went back into the film room and, discussed, hey, listen, I understand camp has been long, but we can't have days like this. And if we do, we got to make up for it. See, usually, you have a practice like that early in the morning, and then during the afternoon, the energy, jumps up some. Yeah. Because people, hey, listen, we can't have back-to-back practices. Well, they don't have it. They got to wait until the next day now. So I'm pretty sure today's practice will be much better than yesterday.
Yeah, and I'll say this about Vrabel, and I actually mean this in a positive way. I think Vrabel is the type of coach that he's so effective that, like, if everything was perfect, I think he'd hate it. Because he's the type of coach that he's a teacher, and when you have a sloppy practice or a bad practice, you have a lot of teaching moments, and I think that's where Vrabel thrives and be able to teach his players, hey, no, this is how we're going to do this. This is how we're going to play, and so I think he thrives in those moments of when he has those coachable moments, like you saw some yesterday, and I think Tannehill continues to show me that he's always been a leader, but now maybe he's a little bit more of a vocal one. He kind of corrected Nicholas Petit-Frere a couple times with some mistakes, and I think that's good. I mean, the quarterback should be that way. I mean, I think that was always the knock on Mariota, that he was not vocal. He was not that type. And I know Steve wasn't really that way. Steve was quiet, but like you knew who was in charge.
Yeah, and one thing you don't want to happen is, Marcus, Marcus wasn't that type of player. He wasn't that type of leader. He was more, I'm going to lead by example. I'm going to go out and I'm going to make sure everybody's okay. And I'm going to, try to lead by the things that I do on the field, in the weight room, in the classroom. and that was sort of Steve's way of leading, and it worked because you knew that when we needed, when everyone's foot was put to the fire, that Steve would be the one that would lead us through it. You just don't want Tannehill to do something he's not accustomed to doing, to be this vocal leader when you haven't been that way, throughout your career, because guys pick up on that. Guys know when it's genuine and guys know when it's not. I don't have a problem with, the way Ryan Tannehill has led thus far. I mean, you don't need to be a rah-rah guy to lead. You don't need to get up in people's face to lead. Everyone has a different way of showing leadership. Just like Vrabel shows his leadership qualities in a different way that another coach may show his. So, but I do like that now, Ryan, Ryan's the leader. He seems like he's taking another step. And it to me is not even a vocal thing. You just see it from him. You hear it when he's doing his pressers I think he understands this is the season that they have to get things done. If not, then there are going to be a lot of things that change next season.
Coming up next, Willie, I know you have some numbers on Ryan Tannehill that we want to get into and kind of his progression since he's been the starter here with the Titans. We'll check in with Jill Jelnick of Fox 17 after practice, roughly around 12:30, something like that. Before that, though, because starting next week at noon, every Thursday at noon, Silly Underdog Picks is back. And there's somebody that is going to be a part of it again. The old director, George Plaster, going to join us at noon. So it'll be good to catch up with him. We're up and running here on a Thursday. You can weigh in 615-737-1025. That's our phone line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Ryan Tannehill by the numbers. Next, Chase, Willy, and D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3, The Game.
White 85!
Every team needs a quarterback.
White 85!
That's why we have
Hasselbeck, bootleg, rollout, toss, touchdown!
Tim. ESPN NFL analyst Tim Hasselbeck gives his expertise on all things NFL.
How that team is built, I think there's a lot to like about them.
Every Tuesday at noon, Tim with Chase, Willy, and D-Mase. Presented by Red Spirit and Wine in Bellevue on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Business owners and professionals face special challenges in divorce court. In addition to everything else going on, they have to contend with allegations that they are earning more than they are, coupled with claims on their business or practice itself.
Attorney CPA Joe Cordell.
An effective defense often hinges on sophisticated strategies relating to income tax projections, business valuations, spousal support claims. Clients with assets depend on their divorce lawyer's skills in these matters, and that's why it's so important to hire someone that has those skills.
Contact the domestic litigation firm of Cordell & Cordell to schedule an appointment with one of our firm's Nashville area attorneys, a partner men can count on. 615-457-8700. Online at CordellCordell.com. That's CordellCordell.com. Offices in Nashville, Franklin, Murfreesboro, and Gallatin. Cordell & Cordell, 810 Crescent Center Drive, Suite 160, Franklin, Tennessee, 37067.
Hey, it's Mike from Newton Ford South. We all know that you're not supposed to wear white after Labor Day. So with that in mind, we're discounting all of our white vehicles. Well, maybe we should just discount the lighter colors that are close to white too, and maybe the red and blue ones since we celebrate this in America. Okay, fine. I'll discount all the cars, starting right now. On top of that, we want to celebrate all of your hard work with the most American lunch we can think of. Hot dogs. Hot dogs all day on Labor Day. So come kick your feet up, get a new car of any color, and enjoy a hot dog. You can even shop online for a new car with Newton Fast Pass. But you'll have to make your own hot dogs that way. Sorry. Visit NewtonFortSouth.com to learn more. Oh.
Are you seeing these readings? This is incredible.
Short-staffed, Marco's climate research facility is in the eye of the storm. The atmospheric pressure to find more weather specialists is mounting.
Man, this is going to be a big job. We're going to need a bigger team.
Indeed can help him hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. We instantly connect you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Man, this is a nice truck.
Yeah, check this out.
What?
I changed it to remind me of my time at sea.
Weren't you in the Air Force?
Yeah, but I really love the ocean.
You could save and get $200 with Navy Federal Credit Union when you refinance your auto loans from another lender, leaving you with extra to spend on other things. Navy Federal Credit Union. Our members are the mission. Credit and collateral subject to approval. Refinance loans must be at least $5,000 to be eligible for the $200. Terms and conditions apply. Learn more at NavyFederal.org.
We want to hear from you.
Thanks for taking the call.
Join the conversation. Call or text at 615-737-1025. Driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com.
I'm ready to step this up a notch.
You're listening to Chase, Willy, and D-Mase on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and on the Game Nashville app.
Back here, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Chase McCabe, Willie Donick, Derek Mason with you, 615-737-1025. We'll have Panic at the Disco tickets to give away later in the show, so you won't want to miss that. But right now, Ryan Tannehill, Titans quarterback. Willie has, of course, he's our numbers guy. You know, we have I don't really know what my job is. I talk. And we got the athlete in D-Mase. Willie's an athlete. Willie's the numbers guy. Wearing the Mets hat. My Braves are coming.
Yeah,
so,
well, I felt like I needed to represent the Mets here. We got the lead down to a game and a half. Braves are off today. Mets play a big homestand starting tonight against the Rockies. So we got to get the lead back to 2.
Just know that noon today could be uncomfortable for you with a lot of Braves love, on the air.
Oh, there's going to be a lot of Braves love, yeah. But what I wanted to do with this segment is sort of remind people. I think some of these numbers probably won't come as a surprise to many. But I feel like since the nightmare against the Bengals, there's been so much criticism picking apart what Ryan Tannehill can't do. He slipped to tier number 3. His numbers last year regressed. 21 touchdowns and 14 interceptions. Cracks started to show in the Tannehill foundation. You read things like that. But I want to kind of give you a snapshot of what he has done. And this is going to be maybe the, what do they call it, the Marching and Chowder Society here for Ryan Tannehill. I just want to give you what he can do and what he has done and remind everybody how insignificant the quarterback play had been for about a decade before he took over here. So it's kind of like, hey, I understand that he's on the line. A lot is on the line for him this year. With his contract, with where the team is, with where he is at this stage of his career. If he doesn't get it done this year, we kind of know what's going to happen, right? It's going to be time to look for a new guy. But let's at least appreciate where he's gotten them and where they were before. So Ryan Tannehill is 30-13 since he took over as the starter for Marcus Mariota. 30-13. Now, I know you take with a grain of salt a quarterback's one-loss record. There's a lot of other factors that go into it, but it's not nothing. 30-13 is really good. And take a look at the Titans' record before that. 30-13 is 5th in winning percentage in the entire NFL during that period of time. 2019, 2020, 2021. The only 4 quarterbacks that have more or have a better winning percentage as starters: Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Tom Brady. Those are the only 4 that have won a higher percentage of their games as the starting quarterback than Ryan Tannehill. Is he an elite player? No. But is he getting it done with what he has? Yes. Next, he has 13 game-winning drives since he took over as the starting quarterback. 10 fourth-quarter comebacks. 13.
Wow.
13 game-winning drives. Now, remember our stat yesterday. The stat of the day yesterday was the Titans are 13-4 in one-score games over the last 2 years. So there are a lot of games that are coming down to the final couple of drives, okay? So he has more, so you can argue the other side of this is he has more chances in close games to have game-winning drives. But let's give him credit because there's been a lot of games that could seesaw one way or the other based on what happens in the final couple of drives. So he ranks with 13 game-winning drives, second in the NFL over the last 3 years. Only one quarterback has more. He's got 10 fourth-quarter comebacks over that time. So he, with the game on the line, even in some games where he has struggled and the team has struggled up to that point, he's come through in a lot of clutch situations. Did he come through against the Bengals? No, I get that. Mm-hmm. But let's not forget, in so many situations in the past where he has done very well in the clutch for the team. Finally, he has 76 touchdown passes and 27 interceptions over the course of his time as the starter for the Titans.
A lot of those picks came last year.
14 of the 27.
Yep.
14 of the 27 came last year. So there was regression last year. But in the big picture, 76 to 27, pretty darn good ratio. And then finally, I think we know he's a good runner, but here's how good. 18 rushing touchdowns. You know how many quarterbacks have more over the last 3 seasons since Tannehill took over?
Okay. 18 rushing touchdowns, quarterbacks that have more. How many more than 3? Is that what you said?
He has 18.
It's only
over
one
the last 3 seasons.
One quarterback.
There's actually 2. There's only 2 that have run for more touchdowns.
I would say
Kyler
Lamar.
Lamar, yeah.
Or Lamar and Jalen Hurts or Lamar and Kyler Murray?
It's actually Josh Allen and Kyler Murray.
Wow. Okay.
Okay.
Pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I would have thought that Lamar Jackson for sure would have had more rushing touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
He was hurt a lot last year.
So last year, yeah.
So that takes it away.
Lamar Jackson had 16. Cam Newton actually has 17, from 2019 to 2021. And then finally, the efficiency of his running. He's only run for 754 yards, which doesn't wow you. Mm-hmm. But when he needs to run, when he decides to run, 65% of his rushing attempts have resulted in a first down, which to me is a really significant stat. Because that's the whole point, right? If you're scrambling all over the place, let's just picture Malik Willis, okay? And I think he'll get better at this as he goes for sure. But when it's third, let's just say it's 3rd and 11, and you make there was a couple of plays against Tampa. Malik Willis made about 3 guys miss. He's got 5 guys chasing him. You're like, man, this guy's tough to bring down. But if all you do is run it and it becomes 4th and 4, when it was 3rd and 11, what have you really done? You're punting anyway, right? That's a good run, but it's not getting it done.
It's not getting the first down.
Yeah, knowing where the sticks are. Tannehill's really good at that. 65% of runs resulted in a first down, and that is the best in the NFL since he took over, 2019 to 21. For example, is Patrick Mahomes a pretty good runner? Yeah. Only 47% of his runs result in a first down. Josh Allen, same, 47%. So Ryan Tannehill does a lot of good things. Now, the question is, what Ryan Tannehill are we going to see this year with all of the variables that go into it?
So let me ask you guys this. Mm-hmm. When I looked at him last year, I mean, it was well documented, the struggles of the offensive line and the lack of weapons, because you never got Julio and AJ going at the same time. They missed a lot of time. John Robinson and the Titans didn't address the tight end position like they should have, which is something that Ryan Tannehill has leaned on his entire career. So do you think that really is what led to the interceptions, is just the fact that he didn't have the tools that he had maybe the year or two prior?
I think it has a lot to do with it. I think the reason why, and listen, you can't take away what Willy has said, the numbers that Willy has presented to us. You can't take them away. They're fact. But I think the reason why people, when they look at those numbers, they still think like, man, they still have this. It's still this sort of you don't want to quite buy into them. You still want to be hands off just a tad bit. And I think the reason is because, one, what he has done in the playoffs or what he hasn't done in the playoffs. And then
100%.
Two, I think people look at the success not as his, but as Derrick Henry's. Because they feel that when Derrick Henry's on the field, his job is easier. Why? Because people have to, when he turns his back to the defense assumes what? He's giving the ball to Derrick Henry. And everybody knows that when they give the ball, everybody got to rally Derrick Henry.
Yep.
One guy can't tackle him. So everyone is taking the bait when he play action pass. So when he turns back around, Derrick doesn't have the ball. The field is wide open for him. Well, he didn't have that,
right?
The last half of the season. Now, listen, they were still able to run the ball effectively, but there's a difference with running the ball effectively and running the ball with Derrick Henry. Defenses.
There's a big difference.
Yeah, defenses look at it a lot different, So when Derrick wasn't on the field, his job became a little bit more it became harder. When Derrick's on the field, his job's a little bit easier.
Yeah.
So that's why people look at Ryan Tannehill and they say, yes, those numbers sound good, Willie, but I don't know.
Yeah, there's some buts, and I get that. And the playoff thing is the biggest thing. But I'm just trying to say, put that aside for a second. Look at what he has done. And to your point, Chase, the pass protection last year, he was knocked down the third most of any quarterback. Only Matt Ryan and Carson Wentz were hit more on dropbacks than Ryan Tannehill was. So he was under a ton of pressure last year. Can that be better this year?
So which Ryan Tannehill are we going to see this year? 615-737-1025. Plus, there's a little bit of news out of Titans practice today. We'll give that to you coming up next. Chase, Willy, and D-Mase on 102.5, 106.3, The Game.
Hey, this is Matt Duchene, and this is Smashville.
Running down the left side with Duchene. Duchene scores! Matt Duchene with the overtime winner.
You're listening to the flagship of the Nashville Predators radio network, ESPN 102.5, The Game.
Winning this award is truly like winning the Super Bowl of car dealer awards for Mercedes-Benz.
Edwin Vickery, General Manager of Mercedes-Benz of Music City.
Culture eats strategy for lunch. You have to hit on all cylinders to win this award. You can strategize all you want. You got to still have the right tools, and our tools are our people.
Live the dream with three-time Mercedes-Benz Best of the Best award winner, Mercedes-Benz of Music City. Go to mbofmc.com.
Harman Energy is now hiring drivers for their Nashville team. Harman Energy is Tennessee's petroleum solution for major industries. Right now, they're offering competitive compensation. Fuel tank wagon drivers start at $26 an hour. Fuel transport drivers, $29 an hour. Plus, there's a $4,000 sign-on bonus for CDL drivers. Top quality benefits and a great place to work, Harman Energy employees provide totally outrageous customer service. Come be an employee owner with the Harman team. Apply now at HarmanEnergy.com.
Realizing Geico has over 85 years of experience saving folks money and providing great customer service is like realizing how when you take the cover off your travel toothbrush and attach it to the other end, it becomes a handle.
Hey, thanks. I can reach my molars now.
It's something that's been right there in front of you this whole time, like the dedicated Geico claims team available to you in the event of an accident to get you back on the road quickly. Or how that small pouch inside your jeans pocket is for holding your pocket watch.
But I don't have a pocket watch.
You might have gotten one if you had known you had a pocket for it.
It's something you can't believe you never realized before, like how Geico's 97% customer satisfaction rating means Geico is committed to providing the best service for their customers. Or how you don't have to pry out the plastic seal on your deodorant. You can just turn the knob and it pops right out.
Look at that. I gave up trying to get into my deodorant days ago.
We hadn't noticed.
Trust. It's just one of the many reasons to switch to Geico. They're all right there in front of you.
Have you seen the selection of luxury pre-owned Rolex watches they now have at Genesis Diamonds? If not, prepare to be amazed.
If people really know the watch world, they come in and they're in shock. They're like, I cannot believe you have this selection here. They're able to see them, touch them, feel them.
Meet Genesis watch expert Charlie Rivers, who says over the past few years, Genesis buyers have scoured the world to build a collection of luxury pre-owned Rolexes, including all the hard-to-find models.
Daytonas, Pandas, Sky Dwellers, a huge selection of Submariners, Hulks, Kermits, anything that you could ever possibly want. We have every luxury pre-owned Rolex that we have here. We ensure that it's in pristine condition.
So come in today and find the timepiece of your dreams at Genesis. Or if you already own a Rolex and are looking to trade for a different model or even sell it, Genesis can help you get top dollar.
If you have a Rolex, definitely bring it in. I would love to see it and do a complimentary evaluation on it and see what we can do for you.
Genesis Diamonds, now with one of the largest selections of luxury pre-owned Rolexes in America. Green Hills and Cool Springs.
Your home for Hit City is 94.9 The Fan.
Your Nashville Sounds continue their series at Durham. Swing and a miss, strike three. Sounds win. Pre-game at 5:20.
On your home for Sounds Baseball, 94.9 The Fan and The Fan app.
Hey, Nashville, this is Eli Gold, voice of the Alabama Crimson Tide, and you're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Chase, Willy, and D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, talking about Ryan Tannehill. Will we see a different Ryan Tannehill, more of a return to form this year? 615-737-1025. You can call or text. Our phone line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. A couple of notes coming out from Titans practice. Treylon Burks not on the field for the Tennessee Titans. So the rookie wide receiver, first-round pick. I saw him leave yesterday. So not on the field today. Also, for the second straight day, Derrick Henry is involved in team period. So things ramping up for him. John Glennon reports Zach Cunningham wearing a yellow non-contact jersey. Naquan Jones not out there as well.
I got the sense yesterday, and we talked about it right when it happened. We played the press conference with Coach Vrabel. Jared asked the question about Treylon Burks. He was talking more, I think the question that Jared was asking was much more about the overall performance of Burks in the preseason. You know, the ups, the downs, where's the consistency, all that stuff. But the answer was a very frustrated, well, we got to look, it's a long season. And there were some signals that, you know, there's an issue there physically. Physically. And that is what we got into a lot yesterday is, so what's going on with his availability?
Right.
He had to deal with the asthma before. It looks like he's tackled that part of it. Now there seems to be something with the left leg. People have shown us some pictures. Tehran showed us a picture during the game on Saturday where he had a wrap on his left leg. So there's something going on there, I think, and maybe it's just continuing to nag him, and he's going to need a little time. Now the question is how much time, because the clock's ticking before the regular season starts here.
Yeah, and I think how much of Mike Vrabel's – obviously he's frustrated because he wants everybody out there. He wants the players to learn. This is the time to do that. But I also wonder how much of the frustration is just going back to the A.J. Brown situation and how he's like, I had my guy. I know that, you know, there were contractual things and you know, ultimately it was the right move to move on. But it's like everything was great with this guy, and now I have a rookie that, you know, can't stay on the field.
Well, I mean, they dealt with it for a while, you know, last year, and you see how that went. There was not any consistency in the passing game because of the lack of availability at the wide receiver position, you know, for the, you know, big two, as they, you know, as I'm going to say, you know, AJ and Julio. But AJ, you know, he had some games where he performed really, really well. And you figured, okay, now that we've traded AJ away, we bring in a young guy. So you're hoping things would be different. And it seems like it's going down that same path again. of not being available. And, even with Robert Woods, he's available, but you're still working him through. You don't want to put too much on him with that knee. So you got to monitor him as well. And I'm sure, Robert is like, listen, I want to go. I want to be out there. But you still have to sort of gauge that with him because you don't want to put too much on him and he ends up, having a setback. So the Titans are in a really, sort of pinch right now, not just at the offensive line, but at the receiver position as well. And those two things were their Achilles heel last year, and it seems like it's slowly becoming their Achilles heel this year. The availability of the wide receivers and the inability of the offensive line, mainly the right tackle and the guard position, to hold up.
That's why when we throw out these numbers about Tannehill, it comes back to what can you do to support him. He is a guy that needs support to put up his best numbers. Every quarterback does. He's not one of those, though, that just elevates everybody around him. So if the problems continue with pass protection, et cetera, what does that mean for what he can do production-wise? And to your point, Chase, I do wonder, because I think everybody's sort of gone with the narrative of, hey, A.J. Brown was kind of goofy with what he was doing, all the tweeting and hitting baseballs and, what's going on. He had this scheme going on to try to get his contract. The Titans walked right up to the draft and then decided we're walking away. We're going to trade him. People have sort of gone with the narrative. Hey, this is going to work out. I like Kyle Phillips. Let's hope Burks does it. But I do wonder if they hit some adversity early in the season, how much it's going to come back around of, in hindsight, that was a bad move. Like, I think I just heard you say, hey, I think it was the right move. I totally get that because long-term, that would have been basically overpaying for A.J. Brown. And there would have been ramifications down the road for the salary cap with that. But in the short term here, where you're trying to win right now, if the wide receiver crew struggles and they miss him, that's going to come back around.
But I don't know. See, it's fair to say if the wide receiver crew struggles. I don't think they're going to. I feel like Robert Woods looks good. He looks like he's healthy. I could see him, being that number one guy, even though he probably isn't a true number one guy, but he can play that role. NWI, I know, Derek, you've been very impressed with him, and Nick Westbrook-Akine. And so if you get production out of those two, Kyle Phillips is your slot guy, and let's just say Woods is a 1,000-yard receiver, okay? NWI gets you like 600 maybe, and then Phillips is – your 250, 300, somewhere in there maybe, plus whatever Austin Hooper is going to do. And if Burks is, has, not great numbers, then, there's going to be concern because he's your first-round pick, and everybody thinks that, okay, the first-round pick needs to come in and just ball out from the very beginning. But then something clicks and he gets it next year and then everything's fine. I mean, that's what you'd hope for. But I think they want the production now, but you don't need to panic because I do think they have a pretty good group in front of him right now.
Well, they have a solid group.
Solid is the right word.
Solid group in front of them. They have, led by Robert Woods, who has been a 1,000-yard receiver in this league, who has caught over 100 balls in this league, or close to 100 balls in this league. He's been a part of a championship football team in the Rams last season. So you have that stability. The only thing you worry about with him is, will he have any setbacks with that knee as the season goes on? Then you have Nick Westbrook-Akine, who what you have in him. He is a solid NFL player. He's a really good number 3 and a solid number 2. Well, how long can you go throughout the season with him as your number 2, because ultimately you want Treylon Burks, who you drafted, 16th, 17th overall. You want him to be your starter, and you want him to be your number 1 guy. So as the season continues to progress, if Treylon doesn't overtake Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, then we have a problem, unless Nick is just balling out so hard that you can't help but keep
really
Burks on the sideline.
I gave you a couple.
I don't know if it's going to happen or not.
I gave you the projections for him from Football Outsiders, and they're more or less what he did last year. Maybe add a little bit.
For Tannehill, you mean?
No, for Nick Westbrook-Ikhine. If Burks isn't there for either literally not there, not on the field, or just isn't in the rotation and producing, I just do wonder if Nick Westbrook-Ikhine has the ability to really up his production to a number 2 wide receiver kind of thing. I don't think he does.
Well,
I'm a huge fan of him.
A lot of it depends on Robert Woods. It does. If Robert Woods can, be a legitimate number 1, then it takes pressure off of NWI. Everyone's going to shift to Robert Woods. That's going to leave him with a lot of man-to-man coverage, and I think he has the ability to beat man-to-man coverage. If what I've seen from him is, if you give him the opportunity to catch the football, he's going to catch the football.
I agree.
It's just anybody tells me different, then you got to show me, because if he wasn't a guy that was a consistent player, then he wouldn't be in the position that he's in, and Ryan Tannehill wouldn't trust him as much as he trusts him. So to me, he's going to get more opportunities. Now, I'm not saying that the opportunities are going to go from, say, 40 attempts to 90 attempts. No. But he's going to get an opportunity to show that he can truly be a number 2 on his team, or is he just a number 3? He's going to get the opportunity.
Yeah,
that would solve a lot of problems if he could be a guy that could be out there. He had 57 targets last year. Not that many, but and then he caught 38. He's pretty good. He was better than average. So if you threw him the ball 90 times, and could he be a 60-catch, 800-yard guy?
I think he could be a 60-catch guy in this league. I truly, on this team, I think he can be a 60-catch guy.
There's a couple of texts that I want to address along these lines, but you think NWI can be a 60-catch guy in this league? We'll expand on that coming up next. Chase, Willy, and D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, and the Game Nashville app.
Want the latest on college football and Nashville sports?
He looks like 1,000 MAC-level quarterbacks I've seen in a college game.
Join Outkick 360's Chad Withrow every Friday at 5 with Stillman and Company.
The coaching staff kept him and got rid of the other guys.
He'll bring opinions and charisma for a full half hour every week.
If he's so great in the locker room, then give him a coaching gig.
Chad Withrow is presented by Regal Realty Group on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
From the Fox 17 News Code Red Weather Center.
I'm Fox 17 Code Red meteorologist Greg Bovis, right near 90 degrees once again today. A few isolated showers or weak thunderstorms can't be ruled out. This afternoon through this evening, mainly south of I-40. All that action turns off as we get closer to sunset.
This weather report brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
Call the Happy Face Truck today.
Hey Nashville, it's Jared, and there's a new go-to for home furnishing.
The summer clearance sale at Social Furniture, where all furniture is reduced in every department. Designer sofas from $5.99 and leather sofas from $7.99. Queen bedroom sets with queen bed, dresser, and mirror from $11.99. They come in solid, cherry, oak, and gray. Casual 5-piece dining room sets starting at $3.99, and formal dining sets starting at $5.99. Sealy, Stearns & Foster, Simmons, Serta, and Purple Mattress, all sizes on sale.
Social Furniture on the west side Side is independently home-owned furniture store in Nashville. Forget the big box store. Shop local, shop social. They have all the best brand mattresses, sofas, recliners, love seats, sectionals, coffee tables, and more with no waiting. They will deliver it the same day. That's with everything at Social Furniture. Enjoy new furniture now with no waiting. Shop local, shop social. 5412 Charlotte Avenue near White Bridge Road, and tell them Jared Stillman sent you.
Are you sick and tired of constant pain in your knees, hips, or back? Especially this time of the year. You need to be moving pain-free, right? Hey, Willy Donick here for the team at QC Kinetics. QC Kinetics is helping people every day, giving them lasting pain relief using the latest advances in regenerative medicine. The science is simple. They concentrate your own body's healing agents and apply them to your aching joints, restoring and repairing the damaged tissue. No drugs, no steroids, no surgery. The old remedies for pain are not the only remedies. You need to learn more about how regenerative medicine at QC Kinetics can change your life. Make this the last summer you suffer from chronic pain. They've got clinics here and all over America. This is the exciting new, natural way to deal with joint pain. No side effects, no downtime. So call the local medical professionals at QC Kinetics. 615-249-4024. That's 615-249-4024. 615-249-4024 for QC Kinetics.
Nothing makes one feel better than the ability to give to someone in need. You have the power to give the most important gift of all, the gift of life, with a donation of your blood. Supplies are desperately low in our area, and your help is needed. Blood Assurance is a nonprofit community blood center that supplies our Middle Tennessee area hospitals. Please find it in your heart to donate. Be someone's hero today. Go to bloodassurance.org to find a location or blood drive near you. That's bloodassurance.org. Give blood, give local, save lives with Blood Assurance.
Robbie Stanley.
They get a lead in that game and just totally close the door.
Joe Rexrode.
If he plays next year, it's disastrous.
Robbie and Rexrode. Mornings from 6 to 10 on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 and 106.3 The Game, and on the Game Nashville app. This is Chase, Willy, and D-Mase on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game, and on the Game Nashville app.
102.5, 106.3 The Game. Chase McCabe, Willy Donick, Derek Mason with you. Talking Titans and receivers, Ryan Tannehill. A lot of you want to weigh in on our text line, which are always welcome to do. Driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. Coming up this weekend, we are your racing station. You can hear starting at 5 on Saturday, the Coke Zero Sugar 400. NASCAR on 102.5 and 106.3. The Game is presented by the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway at Daytona this week, so should be fun. Listen to that. But a couple of texts that caught my eye. Unnamed texter says, for some reason, everyone's approach to the AJ trade is so narrow. It's about Big Jeff. Pay AJ or pay Jeff. They chose Jeff because wide receiver is easier to fill. Derek, agree?
No, that had this had nothing to do with Jeffrey Simmons. They could have paid A.J. Brown and they could have paid Jeffrey Simmons as well. This is not like, we are so strapped to the cap that we can't, pay our players. They had the ability to pay A.J. if they wanted to, but they just don't put their value when they value certain positions. They're not like other teams. The Raiders valued the wide receiver position. Seattle valued the wide receiver position. San Fran valued the wide receiver position. Well, the Tennessee Titans said, listen, we value it, but not at that price. It has nothing to do with Jeffrey Simmons because there are guys that are making a lot of money on that team, So what they did had nothing to do with whether they were going to have the ability to pay Jeffrey Simmons or not. They looked at it from the standpoint of, listen, he's a really good player. He has dealt with injury issues, and we don't know if this injury issue situation has been rectified. We give you all this money, and then you end up not being able to play. Now we're stuck with the contract. That, again, had nothing to do with Jeffrey Simmons. It had everything to do with A.J. Brown and what they had seen thus far. Not necessarily in this play, but his ability to be on the field for 17 games. If I'm going to pay you $20-some million, I expect you to be on the field 17 games. And AJ AJ just didn't show that. Not to say that the kid's not a player, because he is, but he didn't show that.
Can you imagine the conversations that they were having in the days leading up to the draft? Because I think we know this all started when you were talking about Mike Vrabel's, the frustrated tone that he had at the press conference yesterday talking about Treylon Burks, right? It just, you want it to work out because that is what they gambled on when they made that draft day trade. And it was, hey, we have a window right here to make this trade right now. We can't think about it for the next couple of weeks and decide later in the summer. It's either we do it now or we don't do it. They did it, and we know fast. I mean, rewind back to that next day. Mike Vrabel kind of showed his cards a little bit. He wasn't, he didn't sound like he was all in. He kind of, because he had been on the record to say, we're not trading A.J. Brown. You remember?
Yeah.
So you do wonder privately if he's been a little bit worried about this all along. And you can't help, it's natural to say, okay, would we be better off? Where would we be if we found a way to make it work with A.J.?
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, you're going to have revisionist history. That's a part of it. But, I go back to, and I think this, I don't know if everybody ignores this. A.J. made a lot of big catches in his time with the Titans.
Big catches.
He dropped a lot of big catches, too.
Big catches?
Oh, yeah. I think there were the playoff game, he had a big one that he obviously caught. But there were a few that I can remember downfield hit him right in the hands. And he couldn't make the catch. Now, did he make up for it? Sure. But when you're negotiating a contract, if you're John Robinson, that factors in.
It has.
You have to look at that.
Absolutely does. Jonathan Hutton put it in great terms yesterday. I think the best attribute that A.J. Brown had was that he did make a lot of game-changing catches.
Yes.
That went beyond the full numbers, right? He was a guy that at any point in time could change a game with a big play, and did. And they had lacked that big time. But when you're choosing to pay elite money for a player, the other part of it is true. He didn't have the other 30 catches and, like you were saying, Derek, be out there every game where you rely on a guy like that. So he was missing that ingredient for sure. But the question is, where do they make up for that, the Titans? And can Burks, even if he's not a 70-catch guy or something his first year, can he at least be in there for some big plays where he changes a few games just with what he does well? That's what you have to hope for.
Tyler on our text line says, Chase, you quoted just 2,000 yards passing for Tannehill. If he only throws for 2,000 yards, we will crucify him in the whole passing attack. I'd consider 2,000 yards struggling. Number one, I quoted 2 receivers. That was not the total for or 3 receivers. That wasn't the total for Tannehill. But it does raise the question, what does Tannehill's passing total need to be for us to feel good?
Because as I've always tried to say, is the Titans throw the ball less than just about every team. If it's going the way it's supposed to go, right? If it's going the way it's supposed to go, they're going to run the ball more than any team. So he's not going to have 5,000 yards. He's not going to have 40 touchdown passes.
He had 3,734 last year.
So it's not about the yards. It's the efficiency. And the efficiency was down last year. The efficiency was about as good as it could be for the first season and a half. So if he can get – I don't know if he'll ever get back to that. But if he can come back some, if there can be some bounce back, I would take that.
Well, he has never been a 4,000-yard passer with the Titans. I don't know if he was a 4,000-yard passer with the Dolphins either. I can go back and check. But with the Titans, the highest he's gotten was 3,800. And that was the season where Derrick Henry, where this team just – that was his most yards. Yeah, that was his most efficient season as a quarterback when he threw for 3,800 yards, I believe. I think he threw less than 10 interceptions that year.
Yep, 33 touchdowns and 7 interceptions.
Exactly. So that Ryan Tannehill will get you to one. That's if the defense continues to play the way they have been, and there's nothing that I've seen thus far that tells me they won't be a top 10, top 5 defense. So if the defense is still in that top 10 range, then those numbers right there will get you, if not the number 1 seed, you are a 2 or a 3.
Would you take in between? I don't know exactly what the numbers would be, but somewhere in between the high point of 2020 and last year. Would you take numbers in between?
So that's like 30.
Well, let's
that's like 30 touchdowns.
Yards.
That's 30 touchdowns and 10 interceptions, basically.
I'm talking about sort of overall level of play. Where last year he was below average when you get down to it. I mean that was a below average offense. The year before it was a top 10 offense.
Do you have? I don't know how quickly you can get this with some of your numbers. Their red zone efficiency last year, because I think that he's, if you go and look at 2020 off the top of my head. How many red zone touchdowns did he have to Jonnu Smith and A.J. Brown?
I don't have it in front of me, but the red zone efficiency is one of the biggest things that is, according to the analytics, right? We talked about yesterday, one of the adages of analytics is it's very hard to win the close games consistently every year. The Titans have done it the last 2 years, 13-4 in one-score games. Is there a chance they regress this year? A lot of people would say yes. You're pushing your luck if you think you're going to do that again. The same is true with red zone efficiency. It's very hard to be great in the red zone every year, and they were on a roll there with tremendous red zone play. It wasn't bad last year, if I remember correctly. It wasn't as good, but it was not bad.
I think Tannehill, a lot of his touchdowns will come out of that. Come out of the red zone.
Well, and where he runs for touchdowns. We talked about 18 rushing touchdowns that he's had. Think about the read option, keeping, faking to Henry, give it to Henry. They've run the ball in the red zone really well over the years.
LD from McMinnville, Tannehill was 4,000 plus twice with the Dolphins.
Correct.
Okay. So, look,
and the record was not good.
No.
Exactly.
If you go to yards, if you're anywhere 35, 3,600, but the touchdown to interception ratio is higher, then you'll take it.
It's when you get the yards, too. Like, if you're way behind and you're this is the old fantasy thing you learn when you start playing. The fantasy yards are the same either way, right? But sometimes it's good to have a fantasy quarterback playing for a team that's behind because you're throwing it all the time. You rack up a lot of yards, it doesn't mean that much.
Yeah, he just needs to be efficient. Like you said, if you can get between what he did last year and then what he did the previous year, if you can get numbers between that, then that puts you in a position, one, it puts you back into the playoffs, considering your defense is now, one of the best defenses in the National Football League. So that puts you back in the playoffs. But then which Ryan Tannehill shows up once you get in the playoffs? That's, the $30-something million question.
Coming up next, I love what I just read on Twitter about what's happening in Titans practice today. I'll tell you that. Plus, the Indianapolis Colts, we'll do a little report on them. Chase, Willy, and D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
You watch The Game.
Line to left, coming on Newstrom. Base hit, Soundswind.
We talk The Game.
But they knew he'd be really good. Well, if they don't make that move, they don't win those championships.
We are The Game. Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
All right, folks, it's just about here. College football kicking off this week, and FanDuel wants you to be ready for game day. Joe Rexford here to let you know that new customers on FanDuel Sportsbook can get $150 in free bets guaranteed for week one. You place a $5 bet, you can get $150 in free bets, win or lose. Do a lot of different things, of course, on FanDuel Sportsbook, which is safe, easy, and fast. You get a same-game parlay, live betting. Hey, if you want to go national championship futures, I'll give you a crazy thought. How about Alabama? And, of course, this week, I really like Vanderbilt giving the points at Hawaii. I understand it's on the road. It's a long trip. Vanderbilt was 2-10 last year. I think Mike Wright and that Vanderbilt offense are going to roll. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, now's the perfect time to give it a shot. See for yourself why FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. Download the FanDuel app, sign up promo code JONA2, place a $5 bet to get $150 in free bets guaranteed to kick off the college football season. Again, promo code JOE102. You must be 21 or older and present in Tennessee. First online real money wager, only $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued is now available. Free bets that expire 14 days after receipt. Restrictions apply to terms of FanDuel.com. Gambling problem, call the Tennessee Red Line, 800-889-9789.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
This week's Nashville's best deal is seafood sensation. Often imitated but never duplicated, Seafood Sensation is Nashville's original seafood restaurant. Right now, you can get half off a $25 gift card at theGameNashville.com/deals and enjoy some of your favorite seafood dishes, like their crab legs platter, grilled salmon, and more. That's Seafood Sensation, located at 2719 Jefferson Street near the TSU campus. Get half off a $25 gift card while they last at theGameNashville.com/deals.
Get in on the conversation at 615-737-1025. The game text line is driven by Wilson County Hyundai. Online at wilsoncountyhyundai.com.
Jared Stillman.
Football season, and then football season becomes hockey season, and then it becomes draft season, and then it becomes hockey playoff season.
And company.
Maybe this is something to just get people a little bit interested.
It's a matter of not having too many chefs in the kitchen.
Catch Stillman and company on your drive home. Weekday afternoons from 2 to 6 on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN.
102.5 The Game and The Game Nashville app.
And I can spot it from a mile away.
Watch live on YouTube, Twitch, and Periscope.
I was 53, divorced, and ready to get back out there. I was unsure about dating sites, but I signed up for Silver Singles and quickly met Lily.
Mark and Lily rediscovered the romance they deserve on Silver Singles, the secure dating site for 50-plus singles who know what they want.
Lily's a lover of the great outdoors like me, and we instantly connected over it.
If you're like Mark and want to rediscover that feeling, sign up today at silversingles.com/love. That's silversingles.com/love.
From the Hillside Medical Game Studios, WPRT-FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne.
Robbie and Rex Road, Chase, Willy, and D-Mase.
Stone and Company.
Nashville's best sports talk. 102.5 and 106.3.
Terang, it's a high fly ball.
We had pass rushes.
Awesome game 7.
Checkered flag in the air.
The Game.
A Cromwell Media Station.
Now let's see if we can bring them to life, all right?
Bringing you entertainment and informative sports talk during your workday.
Smart, funny, classy, and I like him a lot.
This is Chase, Willy, and D-Mase with Chase McCabe, Willy Donick.
Mason, touchdown, Tennessee.
And former NFL wide receiver Derek Mason on Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game, and on the Game Nashville app.
This is a new level of geek you got going on here.
11 o'clock hour, Chase, Willy, and D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, streaming on the Game Nashville app. Chase McCabe, Willy Donick, Derek Mason here with you. We'll get into the Colts and the AFC South in just a second, but I love this tweet that I saw from A to Z Sports from 11 on 11. Tannehill and Derrick Henry on the field. Play one, Tannehill handoff to Henry. Huge gain off of Lawan. Love hearing that. Play action, Willy's favorite. Tannehill connects with NWI on timing route across the middle. And then third play, handoff to Henry, who cuts back through another big hole on the right side.
What was there a defense on the field, or was this dummy offense?
No, it's 11 on 11.
11 on 11. Okay. Good. Who were the 11?
Was it the first team.
First team.
This was 1 versus 1 today?
Yeah.
Okay.
Woodside. Woodside sacked by Landry, but I don't know, Woodside. So I love seeing that. That happened. By the way, we didn't mention this. The Titans did make a trade yesterday, again addressing the secondary and acquiring the former Overton Bobcat Ugo Amadi, Nashville guy. So they made that trade with the Eagles. Ugo, a safety. So they continue to make these moves for the secondary.
Shouldn't they be trying to make a move for the offensive line?
I'm waiting for that.
I mean, maybe they are seeing something different than what everyone else is seeing with the offensive line. I don't know, but
I think that is a very fair question, and I think it will be addressed at some point.
Yeah.
In the meantime, it is interesting. This is not the first move they've made to address the secondary. In fact, it's the third play they've made for a veteran just in the last week to 10 days.
Yeah. But John Robinson did say, hey, listen, when Buster Screen retired, he said we're going to, bring defensive backs in. And he did talk about, hey, listen, some of these defensive backs, they like to, especially the veteran guys, they want to wait until camp is almost over, and then they like to join a team. So I'm not too surprised that that they're going out and they're trying to build up their depth with the secondary. But even though I did say the secondary to me, because I don't think, the corners have logged in a lot of minutes, even though I do think that is somewhat of a concern, but it's not. The concern for the secondary and the concern for the offensive line is on opposite ends of the spectrum for me.
Yeah.
There's a dire, for me on the offensive line. The secondary, we could use a couple of people. I'm just worried about, them not being experienced enough at the corner, not the safety position, but at the corner position.
So here is what I was reading. Jimmy Wyatt did a breakdown basically of Amadi, who, like you said, is from Nashville. He played at Overton. Then he went to Oregon for college. He's played 47 games in the league. I can see the fit based on where he's played. Because he supposedly is one of those guys who can play nickel corner and can drop back and play safety for you. So he's a bit of a utility man. So I'm trying to figure out two things. Number one, where do they see him fitting in the personnel here? Like, what does it mean for Molden? What does it mean for McCreary, who I think was a guy they were looking at being that slot cover guy? And why was Amadi moved on from two other teams just in the last couple weeks? He was with Seattle. Seattle traded him to Philly. Isn't that right?
Mm-hmm.
So he's been traded like twice in the last 10 days. What's going on there?
That is a little bit of a head scratcher.
Well, I think the thing is I believe why they are making this move, because and you brought it up, Willie, because he has the ability to play in a slot.
Yes.
And right now, as good as we think Roger McCreary will be, again, like Traylon Burks, they don't think he's ready for day one. They don't think Molden is ready to play that slot position.
Because that's where he played a lot.
Exactly.
If I remember correctly, as a rookie, Molden was more or less the slot guy.
Exactly. So, again, there's not these guys. That's what my concern was, is that these guys don't have enough hours put in together. Yes, you have Kevin Byard in the back end, and he's the best safety in the National Football League. And you got Amani Hooker, who has shown that this guy's a player in this league, and he has the potential to be a superstar. But your corners are young.
Very young.
And we need to bring some veterans in just in case, either they don't pick it up as quickly as possible, or one of these guys go down. So we need a veteran guy. So this tells me that as much as they like McQuarrie and Molden, they have not quite picked up the nuances you need to have to play the slot position.
Amadi plays special teams as well, which is always something good on the resume that fits with the Titans. It reminds me, Chase, when you're trying to build a bullpen in spring training, you bring in like 6 relief pitchers. Defensive backs are kind of like that. You got an Amadi. You've got Lonnie Johnson that they brought in. You got the guy that they traded with the Raiders to get. So they pay a little bit. They're not paying premium dollars there. But between those guys and then your Sammy Kalous and the guys that have been there, Chris Jackson, you hope at the end of camp you've got a stable of guys, depth-wise, that you feel like you can run with. Because you're going to miss guys here and there, right? It's not. I don't know these guys are all going to be there for 17 games. So, Breon Borders and those guys, remember, they end up playing big games.
Right. Now, is Elijah Molden, he's dealing with an injury, right?
Yes, he's been dealing with an injury.
So
he's
that's
just
another
starting
reason.
to get back.
Yeah, that's another reason. Like, we got to have some depth, and we got to have some experience.
Yeah.
At that position.
You got to be ready to play these teams that run 4 wides.
Oh, yeah.
Right? A spread. You're facing the Bills. You're facing the Chiefs. You're facing the Bengals. I mean, you got to have a lot of guys who can cover.
Yeah. So I understand now why they are choosing to bring in defensive backs. But again, I mean, you can stop everybody, but if you can't score no points because of the offensive line, it makes no difference.
Well, let's see what he's got up his sleeve for that.
No doubt. I said we were going to get to the Colts. We'll actually do that coming up next. We got off on a little bit of a tangent. Bob Kravitz, who was on Robbie and Rexroad yesterday, gave his thoughts on Frank Reich and the expectations for the Colts. You'll hear that next here on 102.5, 106.3, The Game.
Let's put the green flag in the air and turn them loose.
Nashville's home for NASCAR.
He's going to try to make a big move here.
It's brought to you by the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway. We are your racing station.
ESPN
102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And the Game Nashville app.
Save big this Labor Day at Electronic Express. Get a Samsung 65-inch 4K TV for only $5.99 or a Whirlpool 4-piece kitchen package for just $27.99. Electronic Express has huge savings in every department: computers, appliances, 4K TVs, smart home, furniture, mattresses, and more. Don't miss out on an Acer gaming laptop for just $6.99 or a Google Nest Hub for only $54. Shop in-store or online with up to 36 months free financing. Electronic Express. We make it happen.
Hey, it's Jared for TriStar Moving. If you're looking to move, you need to give my friends at TriStar Moving a call. At TriStar Moving, you'll get 5-star service throughout the entire process. Everything will be taken care of, from covering your floors, banisters, railings, front door thresholds, furniture, TVs, and more. They took great care of my move and made it as stress-free as possible. If you're looking to move, give TriStar Moving a call, 615-640-1219, or visit them at nashvillemoving.org/radio and get 5% off your entire move. TriStar Moving, my official movers.
Houston Clinic Orthopedics at TriStar Skyline offers world-class orthopedic care. The doctors at their Dickerson Road location specialize in general orthopedics, arthroscopic surgery for general orthopedics and sports medicine, hip, knee, and shoulder, as well as hand, wrist, and elbow trauma. They offer same-day appointments, too, so you can get back to enjoying life sooner. Schedule your appointment now at tn.houston.com. Conveniently located at the TriStar Skyline Medical Center in Nashville. When experience matters, trust Houston Clinic Orthopedics.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter.com/radio.
When Smashville wants to rock.
I tried so hard and got so far, but in the end, it doesn't even matter. Looking to the sky to save it, looking for a sign of life, 'cause it's too cold for you here.
We are Nashville's rock station. 102.9 The Buzz.
I love this show.
Never miss a moment of the show.
Okay, all right, okay.
Subscribe to the Chase, Willy, and D-Mase podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts.
I'm ready to step this up a notch.
You're listening to Chase, Willy, and D-Mase on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and on the Game Nashville app.
Last year it was obviously a strange year. You know, second year of the pandemic. When you have Carson Wentz, you're just holding on for dear life. I mean, I can't explain to you what the Carson Wentz experience is like. You know, there are moments when he was spectacular, and there are moments, as you would well remember, when he was throwing left-handed interceptions out of his own end zone. So it was just nuts. But, yeah, I think Frank Reich I think he's been pretty good. He's done a couple of things on fourth down that I took issue with. 4th and 4 late in the game in his own zone against Houston made no sense. There was the difference between playing a home game in the playoffs and playing in Houston in the first round. They went to Houston and won that game. That remains the only playoff game that they've won since Ballard and Reich have been here. So like I say, I think this year is kind of a make or break year. I don't think anybody's going to get fired if they fare poorly, but I do think the clock starts ticking at the end of the season if they come up short.
Bob Kravitz, longtime Colts reporter, joined Robbie and Rexroad yesterday. Back here, Chase, Willy, and D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. You guys buy that? If they're not contenders this year, that the clock is ticking on Ballard and Reich?
I think so. Because they have put together this team to win now, and they're looking as when you are considered a top team in the National Football League, you always look, well, who's in our conference one, and then who's in our division. Who do we have to compete against in our division? Especially now, because this division is so down, the AFC South. And the only two players are the Colts and the Titans. And if you look at it, and I was listening to Jared yesterday, he said something interesting. He said the only times, that because he was talking about the Houston Texans, and he talked about when they won the conference, when they won the division, the AFC South, and the quarterbacks that won the AFC South. It wasn't a who's who of quarterbacks from Houston that won the AFC South those two times, because I don't think Deshaun Watson, did they win the South when he was a starting quarterback? I know they won it when Matt Schaub was the quarterback, and then
did Schaub win one?
Yeah, Matt Schaub won.
They had some good teams with Schaub, for sure.
And then the other quarterback from Michigan State, I forgot his name. Goodness. Where he talked about those two quarterbacks winning the AFC South. Well, if you look at it, Indianapolis had an opportunity to continue to win the AFC South, and they haven't. And why haven't they? Because they put this team together sort of like the Titans have put their team together. Good defense, a running game, and a really good offensive line. It's all been on the quarterback. Ever since they've lost Andrew Luck, it's been on the quarterback. They thought by going out and get Wentz that he was going to be sort of a guy that puts this team in a position to win, not just win the AFC South, but put them in a position to make it to the Super Bowl. He didn't. So now the owner is looking at it. Excuse me?
Irsay.
Yeah, Irsay is looking at it from this standpoint. I've been building up this team since we got Andrew Luck. I've been building this team. And we've gotten to a point now that I think if you take away the quarterbacks, I believe we are, if not as good as the Tennessee Titans, we are better than them. And now we insert Matt Ryan, who has been an MVP, has went to a Super Bowl. If we can't win it now, then all y'all are gone. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to start over. Because how long am I going to continue to ask you as the head coach and the GM to win this division when Vrabel's not going nowhere and John Robinson's not going nowhere? So if you can't prove that you can beat those guys, then I got to get somebody else.
Yeah, and look, I think Andrew Luck screwed them
big time
when he retired.
But it's their fault. It is their fault.
How is it their fault?
Because they didn't do a good enough job at building that offensive line quick enough for Andrew Luck.
It was a pretty good offensive line.
They were good. Not for a while.
Yeah,
he took a beating, and that's why he was just like, I'm calling it quits.
Right. Okay, that's fair. But then Chris Ballard was faced with, okay, do I blow it up and rebuild and go and draft a quarterback, which in the time span since Andrew Luck retired, he could have done that. He could have drafted his new franchise quarterback. But they didn't want to do that. Irsay didn't want to do that. Irsay still wanted to be a contender, which I understand because he had a lot of success. And so they've gone through this revolving door at QB, which is still what they're doing. I mean, Matt Ryan, if everything goes perfect, you're going to have maybe 2 years with Matt Ryan.
2, maybe 3. That's it. Yeah.
Maybe 3.
Yeah.
Boy, if
3
he
is
gets to 3,
stretching.
that'd be
3 is
something.
stretching.
I even think 2 could be stretching it, but because you watch him last year, like you could tell he's older. He's not the same Matt Ryan. Bob Kravitz was asked about Matt Ryan and the effect that he can have.
Well, it's a lot less crazy than it was with Carson Wentz. The Carson Wentz experience was took a couple of years off my life, but this guy has got the right stuff from an intangible standpoint. I mean, he's a leader. He's he knows how to handle himself. Is he a major upgrade on Carson Wentz? I think he's going to be an upgrade. How significant of an upgrade, I don't know. People forget that as bad as Carson was at times last year, he still had 27 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. So he wasn't, grotesquely bad. But at the end of the year, he obviously fell apart for a number of reasons. I think it's an upgrade, but they're still gonna rely a lot on Jonathan Taylor. I think as the season goes on.
Remember,
I agree with that.
Remember the season that they had last year when he said Carson Wentz took a couple of years off my life. I can imagine that was probably what a lot of Colts fans were thinking. It was such a weird thing, and we notated this a lot during the season. Remember all the debates we were having? Because I was the one saying, watch out. Remember the Colts were at one point, 1-3 or 1-4, and it looked like they were buried. And I was like, they're going to get back into this thing. They went through a stretch where they went 8-2 in the middle of the season, including, remember the game where they absolutely smoked the Buffalo Bills, 41-15. And Jonathan Taylor had 5 touchdowns. Like it was coming around for them. And it looked like it was all going to fall into place. And Wentz, like Kravitz said, 27 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. On the surface, you're like, hey, what's wrong with that? That's not that bad. But it's when he was bad. He was really bad. Remember, I mean, just catastrophic bad at the wrong time. So that's an interesting way to look at it. So with Matt Ryan, I think what they're hoping for is he maybe doesn't drive the car as fast as Carson Wentz. He drives it slower, but there's not that chance that you're going to just run the car into the ditch,
right?
which is what Wentz did.
He's gonna protect the football.
Well, it's all about efficiency, and if you look at their numbers, because we looked at Atlanta and we said Atlanta was a bad team, bad offensive line. They didn't. I mean, it probably took a year off of Matt Ryan's life playing in that offense.
Oh, yeah.
But then you look at their numbers, and we just assume that Indianapolis's offense is much better than what Atlanta and Matt Ryan had to endure last year with Atlanta. But if you look at the numbers, they were somewhat equal in a sense. But Matt Ryan, across the board, numbers were better. Across the board, considering what he had to play with in front of him, meaning the offensive line, and what Carson Wentz had to play.
Just a flat-out bad team.
Matt Ryan had 3,900 yards, almost 4,000 yards, 3,968. Carson Wentz had 35. He averaged 7.1 yards a pass. Carson Wentz averaged 6.9. He completed 67% of his passes. Carson Wentz only completed 62% of his passes. Now, this is where it sort of changes. He only threw 20 touchdowns. Carson Wentz threw 27. He threw 12 interceptions. Carson Wentz threw 7. And here's why I think he threw the 12 interceptions. He got sacked over 40 times last year.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay? So some of those interceptions could have been because he was rushed.
Right.
Now, Carson Wentz only got sacked 32 times. It's still too many for a quarterback, you figure. But I think Matt Ryan had a lot more to deal with than Carson Wentz did. That's why I think they're looking at this from this standpoint. Even with a bad offensive line last year in Atlanta, Matt Ryan was the better quarterback. So they feel, okay, our offensive line's better, our team's better. this should be this is a no-brainer for us.
Sure.
We should be a better team with Matt Ryan as quarterback.
You know what's crazy to me? This is like I've heard Teron, and I think Booger McFarland says this too, but use the phrase that stats are like bikinis. They show you a lot, but they don't show you everything. If you look at Wentz, the stat you just read off, and his numbers from last year, and that's all you look at. You just see those numbers. You go, all right, why'd they move on?
Exactly.
Those are pretty good numbers. But it's the underlying stuff.
It's the context.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's the underlying stuff with him, and has been his whole career. Because if you look at his numbers, they're not bad.
No,
I mean, they from just a strictly number.
His numbers
standpoint.
have never been bad, Carson Wentz.
Right,
but they haven't been enough to get you where you want to go. It's sort of like Ryan Tannehill. You know, he hasn't had horrible stats, but they just hadn't been good enough to get you where you wanted.
Kirk Cousins comes to mind, too.
Same thing, exactly.
There's a lot of that going on. So let's circle back to the initial question, that's expectation level, because I think there's so much on the line this year. We know the Titans, after this year, they're going to have to make a decision at quarterback, what's going on with Derrick Henry. There's some big decisions they've got to make. How are they poised for the next few years? If the Colts don't meet expectations, you ask, are they on the hot seat? I think it's one of those deals where they're not on the hot seat now, but if it doesn't go right again, then I think they enter into next season big time on the hot seat, especially Reich, right? It's the coach always before the GM usually gets the chance to fire the coach, bring in another guy before the GM gets axed. Although with Irsay, you never know because he's definitely a hands-on guy to some extent. But I think the other factor in this is at some point the Jaguars are going to figure it out. Like I think next year's Jaguars team, if they have anything go right this year, and I think we all believe they will be better this year, they can't be any worse. Everything that could go wrong last year went wrong. They should make a pretty good jump. Jacksonville next year could contend for the division, I think.
Okay.
They should. I mean, if they don't have their stuff together by then, they're just due to have it go right at some point.
Okay, you took my thunder from my tease because I was going to say there's another team that maybe we should be talking about. But coming up next, let's dive into that because I think Jacksonville could be kind of a sleeper team in the AFC. Maybe not playoffs, but we'll discuss coming up next. Chase, Willy, and D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
ESPN Titans NFL Nation reporter Teron Davenport brings knowledge.
3 touchdowns. He was processing, getting rid of the ball quickly.
Passion.
Make no mistake about it. He absolutely has to hit the ground running.
And expertise on the two-tone blue and the NFL. Join TD every Monday at 11, Thursdays at 3, and Friday morning at 8 for all the latest on your favorite team. Teron Davenport is presented by Craneworks on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hello, I'm Joe Cordell of the domestic litigation firm Cordell & Cordell. Here are a few quick divorce tips that we provide our clients. Number 1, don't move out of your house just because your wife tells you to. Remember, that's your house too. And number 2, don't blow through the financial statements that you file with the court. These are key exhibits, and they often make or break your case. And number 3, watch the social networking. Expect your wife's lawyer to do a thorough online search. And incidentally, this is a two-way street. Now a bonus tip. Partner with your attorney in assembling evidence. You're one of the 2 leading experts on your life and marriage. Your attorney needs your input to achieve your goals. And finally, talk to your attorney before taking action. Good luck.
Contact Cordell & Cordell to schedule an appointment with one of our firm's Nashville area attorneys, a partner men can count on. Online at CordellCordell.com. Cordell & Cordell, 810 Crescent Center Drive, Suite 160, Franklin, Tennessee, 37067.
Hey, football fans. Dak Prescott here. And I'm here to tell you that with NFL Sunday Ticket only on DirecTV, you can watch your favorite team no matter where you live. Because NFL Sunday Ticket gives you every live out-of-market game every Sunday afternoon. So switch to DirecTV and learn how to get the 2022 NFL Sunday Ticket season included at no extra cost. Call 1-800-DIRECTV.
With choice package and above, 24-month agreement required. Call for details. Lauren and Tony Dungy present Uncommon Influence, Saying Yes to a Purposeful Life book launch event, August 26th at Bethel World Outreach Church in Brentwood. NFL Hall of Famer and Super Bowl winning coach Tony Dungy with a special performance by CeCe Winans, along with a conversation with Jimmy Miato, President and CEO of Compassion International. Don't miss Lauren and Tony Dungy, along with CeCe Winans for the Uncommon Influence launch event, August 26th at Bethel World Outreach Church in Brentwood. For tickets, visit transparentproductions.com.
Men, what if I told you that now you are able to get testosterone replacement therapy in the comfort of your own home? No more weekly trips to the doctor's office. We come to you 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. Be seen by a licensed medical professional in the privacy and comfort of your own home or office. You decide. Schedule your appointment today at CoolSpringsMD4Men.com.
Staples has everything for school at great prices. So this year you won't go back to school. You'll be ready to move forward into art class.
A 4-foot replica of the Statue of Liberty using elbow macaroni?
With glue and art supplies from Staples.
By tomorrow.
Right now at Staples, 1-inch binders are only $1.99 each. Plus select backpacks are 50% off. Everything on your list at amazing prices. Staples, this year we're not going back. We're going forward to school. In-store only, ends 8/27, limit 30 on binders.
Robbie and Rex Road here on ESPN. Welcome into Chase, Willy, and D-Mace.
Company is delivered.
There's a new way to hear 102.5 The Game, Nashville's best sports talk on 106.3 FM. From downtown Nashville to Spring Hill on I-65 and to Murfreesboro on I-24. You now have two choices to hear our great sports programming. Get the extra point, no problem. And the Nashville Predators. Scores! Check out 106.3 now and save it as a preset.
Hey, Nashville, this is Paul Feinbaum, and you're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Chase, Willy, and D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. 615-737-1025 is our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Join Big Joe Dubin and Elijah Campbell tomorrow for the Apple Collision Center's Game Blitz from 6 to midnight. They'll preview the big games and take you through the night of high school football around the Mid-State. Apple Collision Center's Game Blitz on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. A little bit of news coming out of the NFL that I found interesting. Pro Football Talk putting this out that Todd Bowles, the head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, said that Tom Brady will start the final preseason game for the Bucs, ironically playing the team we were just talking about, which is the Indianapolis Colts. Todd Bowles said that most of the starters will play. The Colts, Frank Reich saying that most of his starters will play, except for Jonathan Taylor and Nyheim Hines. They will not be on the field. Willie, you asked during the break how many preseason games Brady has played in his career. Brady has played at least a few preseason snaps most years in his career. Even last season, he had 6 snaps in the exhibition opener, 18 in the third contest. So he has played a little bit in the preseason in his career. But after his absence, it's interesting that he's going to play.
Maybe I guess he just feels like he's got to catch up here. 11 days away. I think we all did wonder about that, even for him, who, you're not going to worry about him not being mentally sharp, but just working the rust off, things like that. 11 straight days away from the team, like not even there and not playing, just not there at all.
I think he understands because there has been injuries with his receiving core. There's been injuries with the offensive line. I think he wants to get a true assessment of where they are as an offensive unit. And he's not going to – I can't see him getting hurt or anything else because he's a veteran. He understands, get the ball out of my hands quickly or get down, throw it away. I'm not going to take an unnecessary hit. But I think he wants to see where this team is, especially the offensive line, before they head into their first game of the season.
So there you go. We'll see what Mike Vrabel decides to do with the Titans. You brought up the Jags, and you look at the moves that they have made in the offseason, some of the draft picks. I think the biggest move and what's going to be the most successful move is the removal of Urban Meyer and moving on from that failed experiment. Doug Peterson coming in as the new head coach to work with Trevor Lawrence, second-year quarterback. I think, Derek, that Trevor Lawrence, you're going to see a pretty big leap between year one and year two.
I think you will. I think Doug Peterson is great with quarterbacks, and I don't see anything that tells me that he won't transform this young man into the quarterback they thought he could be when they drafted him first overall. I have no idea why Shad Khan chose to hire Urban Meyer. He could have set that young man back, 2 or 3 years. He could have got him hurt, honestly, because Urban Meyer's not a coach. He's just not. He's not an NFL coach. I mean, he can win you a championship in college football, but he can't do anything for you in the NFL. So now Doug Peterson comes in, and he has to, right the ship, so to speak. But what I've seen of this young man in preseason is he's picking up everything, and they've surrounded him, with enough talent. And Willie, you said this off air a while ago. You said, listen, when you spend that much time in the top 3 or 4 each year of the draft, eventually it has to come due, just like Washington. Washington spent so many years, the Commanders, drafting guys in the top 5 on their defense. Now you're starting to see that defense is one of the better defenses in the National Football League because they have number 1 picks just littered throughout. I'm pretty sure that's what Jacksonville is hoping now. Like, we've had all these top picks. Now we should be able to start to see the fruit of the labor.
It just seems like in the NFL, it's like sooner or later, the system is designed for even the bumbling teams who take a while to get it right. Eventually, it comes together, especially if Trevor Lawrence hits it off with Peterson. If that just happens to a degree, they're going to be worlds better than they've been. Because Urban Meyer did about everything he could to screw up Trevor Lawrence last year, and that was really tough. So he gets sort of a do-over. But he has at least had the experience of going through last year. So I think Lawrence could make a pretty good jump. Then there's, of course, the X factor of you have Travis Etienne back, who didn't play.
That's huge.
And you added Christian Kirk for he's overpaid, but if he's just an upgrade of what they've had, that's going to make a difference. So
you add him with Chenault, that I think's been pretty good. They got Marvin Jones, Zay Jones that they've added.
They got a solid group of pass catchers.
They do. Jamal Agnew. I always think of Gus Johnson.
When he ran back the biscuit, that was the call of the year last year. So let's look at what they could be. I feel like if I'm Doug Peterson, I want to set the table this year. I want to make strides. I want to be a tough out. I want to knock off a couple of people. If I end up with 7 or 8 wins, that's a really good first year. And then that sets the table with what looks like it should be a pretty young, talented roster next year, where the Colts and the Titans will continue to have their challenges to stay on top. It still looks like the Texans are a couple of years away with all of the stuff that they've got going on. So I don't know that they're going to be there. But the Jaguars should be a factor here. They should become a factor.
I think they will. I don't think they're a playoff team this year, but I think 7-8 wins is probably not out of the question. And if you're the Titans and the Colts and you're competing for this division, you got to be smart when you play them, because I would say, Indy hasn't beaten them in Jacksonville in like 8 years, something like that. The Titans, it's always kind of been hit or miss when they go to Jacksonville, especially. So you should still beat them is what I'm trying to say, but they're going to be scrappy. And I think bringing in Peterson to work with Trevor Lawrence, develop Trevor Lawrence, because think about who we were just talking about previously, Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz had some of his best year, or he had his best year with Peterson and Frank Reich in Philly. And so he knows how to develop quarterbacks.
Well, Indy, here's the thing. Jacksonville, I don't think anyone's picking them to win the AFC South.
No, and
if you are, then you must know something we all don't know.
I want what you have.
Exactly. But I've said this before. Jacksonville you're going to walk into Jacksonville, and it's not going to be, oh, this is a win right here. Oh, Jacksonville's going to walk into your building.
Just don't screw it up. You'll win.
Yeah, just don't screw it up. Jacksonville's coming to town. Just don't screw it up. We'll be fine. No. That Jacksonville team, I think, is gone. Now, I'm just assuming from what I've seen in the moves that they've made in hiring Doug Peterson that old Jacksonville way of playing football is gone. With that being said, it's no more, just don't screw it up and we'll beat Jacksonville. No, it's going to be, we got to go in here and be on our A game to beat this team. They are going to spoil it or make it very hard for either Indianapolis or the Titans or both.
And here's the nightmare. Every year in the league, there is that out-of-nowhere team. Mm-hmm. Last year, it was the Bengals, and that was the Titans' nightmare. Mm-hmm. They caught fire. They weren't a great team, but it sort of came together. They went from being a bad team that nobody would have predicted to win the division to the AFC champion and playing in the Super Bowl, playing a pretty darn good Super Bowl. They came pretty close to winning the whole thing. Why couldn't that be Jacksonville?
Sure.
I mean, I'm not saying it's going to happen. It's not likely, but every year in the NFL there is that team that comes out of nowhere, and all of a sudden, all of the high picks and all of the things that screwed up, maybe it's a coaching change, maybe it's a coordinator change, and suddenly, boom, it comes together. Remember, too, the schedule. The Jaguars play the easy schedule. If they can just beat the teams that they're supposed to beat because they play the last place teams, the other bungling teams, all of a sudden that inflates your record.
Well, Indianapolis has Jacksonville twice in the first 6 or 7 games.
Right.
The Titans have Jacksonville twice in the last 5 games of the season. So to me, Jacksonville is going to be a player in the AFC South from the standpoint of, again, they can make it bad for Indy at the beginning, or they can make it bad for the Tennessee Titans at the end.
So I think that's a fun game to play because obviously the Bengals were the big surprise last year. But coming up next, let's each give a team out of the AFC and the NFC that was a non-playoff team that we think could be that shocker this year. Because I think that's a fun game to play. We'll do that coming up next here on 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
2, 3, 4, look.
High school football is here. Join Big Joe Dubin every Friday night at 6 for the Game Blitz, presented by Apple Collision Centers.
Just a small sample of these great coaches in our area.
We'll go around the mid-state for scores and reports on all the big games.
If I'm a high school coach, I want the challenge.
The Game Blitz is on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
From the Fox 17 News Code Red Weather Center.
I'm Fox 17 Code Red meteorologist Greg Bovis, right near 90 degrees once again today. A few isolated showers or weak thunderstorms can't be ruled out. This afternoon through this evening, mainly south of I-40. All that action turns off as we get closer to sunset.
This weather report brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
Call the Happy Face Truck today.
Jewelry business, it's in my blood. I've been doing it all my life, and it's my passion.
Meet Daniel Sabalas, a third-generation jeweler at Genesis Diamonds.
This line of work, it's all about honesty and trust. It's about building relationships.
And that's what drew Daniel to Genesis, where it's all about education, transparency, and respect for each customer.
It's based on a family business mentality, and that's how we are. We're here to educate, to guide you, and we make it very easy. So we really go out of our way to educate customers in the right way. There's no stress level, there's no tension. The customer can feel that.
All this while providing the guaranteed best value price.
I've never seen a company that has the best price like this that I've seen anywhere. We are a powerhouse of diamonds.
Genesis Diamonds. No commission salespeople, no pricing games, no risk, no pressure, no cutting corners.
Genesis Diamonds is going to give you the best price, best quality, guaranteed, no matter what.
Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills and Cool Springs.
Hey, it's Jared for TriStar Moving. If you're looking to move, you need to give my friends at TriStar Moving a call. At TriStar Moving, you'll get 5-star service throughout the entire process. Everything will be taken care of, from covering your floors, banisters, railings, front door thresholds, furniture, TVs, and more. They took great care of my move and made it as stress-free as possible. If you're looking to move, give TriStar Moving a call, 615-640-1219, or visit them at nashvillemoving.org/radio and get 5% off your entire move. TriStar Moving, my official movers.
If you've got a yard, you may plan on digging it. Like to build an addition, put in a pool, or bury your pirate booty. But you should know that throughout the country, there may be pipelines buried underground. And if you hit one, you've got trouble. Sorry. So before you dig, call 811 to have any buried pipelines located and marked at no charge. For more tips on pipeline safety, visit pipesafety.org. A message from the Tennessee Gas Association, Tennessee Association of Broadcasters, and this station.
How do you make the most of your land? If you ask the Wrens, who run with us on a John Deere mower, they tell you,
I mow first, then I do all the trimming.
But the Hubbards, who work behind the wheel of a John Deere compact tractor, would say,
if it's something you want, just go after it and try it.
Then there's the Mosers, who may mention from the seat of their John Deere Gator UTV,
you can't be all work and not play.
There are millions of ways to make the most of your land. Learn how to make the most of yours at Deere.com. Nothing runs like a Deere.
Jared Stillman.
This is a team that the entire city is losing their minds over.
Caroline Fenton.
It's one of the youngest teams in the league. They don't have a single player over the age of 30.
Stillman and Company. Afternoons from 2 to 6.
Presented by TriStar Moving.
On Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN.
102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app. This is Chase, Willy, and D-Mase on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game, and on the Game Nashville app.
Chase, Willy, and D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. We'll hear from Titans head coach Mike Vrabel coming up in a few minutes. George Plaster at the top of the next hour. But right now, discussing NFL teams out of each conference that didn't make the playoffs last year that we think will make a run and can do it this year. I feel like the AFC is probably the harder one because there's more candidates.
Quite a few.
For that. Mm-hmm. And you don't have to necessarily take it as this year's Bengals. I mean, if you want to take it that way. But, I mean, you think about some teams we've talked a lot about. You know, the Dolphins missed at 9-8 last year. The Ravens at 8-9 didn't make the playoffs last year. The Colts at 9-8 didn't make it. The Chargers at 9-8. Didn't make it. So there's several candidates out of the AFC. So let's start with the NFC. I'll give you mine. I think it's the Saints. I think the New Orleans Saints, even with Jameis Winston, even with the coaching change, that's a pretty good football team around the quarterback with a pretty bad in a good way defense. So I think that they could definitely turn some heads and be a team out of the NFC South to make the playoffs.
I was torn between two teams, and one of the teams is the team that you picked. I was torn between Carolina and ironically, they're both in the same division. Carolina and New Orleans. I'm gonna go with New Orleans. I think having Jameis Winston a full season, having Michael Thomas back, hopefully he can stay healthy throughout the whole season. Chris Olave, who they are really high on. I think they're getting their offense back to what it once was. Jameson is a excellent deep ball thrower that fits right into what Chris Olave does really well. It's to stretch the field. I mean, he's an all-around receiver, but he really stretches the field. Defense, they've stacked their defense. I think this is a team that will surprise a lot of people in the NFC, and I think they will be back in the playoffs. And then once they get in the playoffs, I mean, anything can happen.
I think the Saints is a pretty good bet. I was looking to it. Is there a bold one? Like we were just talking about last year's Bengals, who nobody really saw coming. Not that they lit it up, but it was a pretty balanced division. They went 10-7, and they won it, and they made the run in the playoffs. And I think they had won, 4 games the year before? Of the teams that won 3 to 5 games last year, I don't know if there's one. We just talked about the Jaguars last segment. In the NFC, maybe Carolina if it all comes together, because
with Baker,
yeah.
In that division, if you could finish second to the Bucs, let's say the Bucs aren't quite the juggernaut that they've been, and maybe they win more like 11 or 10, 11 games instead of 13. If you could you scratch out, if you're the Panthers, 9 wins, maybe 10?
But you
I
think 9 is going to get you in?
No, I think it's got to be 10.
Yeah, it has to be 10 wins.
Philadelphia made it to the playoffs last year with 9 wins.
Mm-hmm.
That extra wild card does give you some hope that if you put together a winning season, you got a shot. The AFC is a lot tougher.
A lot of people say the Vikings too, which I don't buy.
Well, but that's another one. It's how much are the Lions going to be better? They were 3-13-1. They could double their wins, and they're still a 6 or 7 win team for the most part. So, could the Lions be like the Jags? For example, the Jaguars play the Lions because it's those are 2 last place teams. Is one team out of those 2 all of a sudden better where you clean up with the other last place teams? You get 3 of them. If you finish last in the division and you go 3-0 against the teams that finished last year, you make a jump. That's the whole design of the Pete Rozelle parody in the NFL schedule making. The AFC is tough because if I told you last year, remember the bizarre ending to the Chargers-Raiders last game of the regular season where if they just let the clock run out and played for the tie. Yeah. So the Chargers should have made the playoffs last year. They didn't. So that could be your answer. A lot of people think. Here's mine for the AFC. Because it's a little bolder, but maybe not that much of a stretch. The Broncos. The Broncos are a sleeper team in a lot of people's minds because in their eyes, and I'm thinking John Elway down the road, they feel like they've got the defense. They've had the defense, but they've had no offense at all. They've had no quarterback play. We talked about Javonte Williams. They got a veteran in Gordon who's there as well. They feel like they've got a pretty good line and running game. They've got these young receivers that they have drafted high with, Jerry Jeudy and those guys. They just lack the quarterback. Now that you have the quarterback, why couldn't they be all of a sudden a team that's right in there? Now, that's a very deep division. Everybody's bringing something to the table in that division. But I would say the Broncos would be my sleeper pick.
I don't think that's a bad one.
It's not, but I think at AFC, if you don't win, I can't unless you win your division at 9 games, which I don't think that's going to happen. It happened last year. I guess Cincinnati won what?
They only won 10.
Yeah, they won 10. So I don't think you can win your division with 9 games.
That'd be crazy.
Yeah, that'd be crazy. But if you're looking at Denver's division and you got Kansas City, you got the Raiders, you got the Chargers and Denver. Well, 2 of those teams won 10 or more games last year, the Raiders and Kansas City. Then the Chargers were 9 and Denver was 7. Denver, you're going to have to win 10, 11 games.
That's a tough division to predict,
tough AFC West is the toughest division in football right now.
I think from top to bottom, that's a good bet. I agree with you.
So for me in the AFC, it's Baltimore. I mean, I know many are picking them to get back in the playoffs anyway because Lamar Jackson. They figure if he's healthy, this team is back in the playoff. But I think that division, AFC North, is going to be much better from top to bottom anyway.
I think the Steelers are going to be better than maybe
the Steelers
people
are going to be a lot better than, I think they are a 10-plus win team. I think Baltimore is a 10-plus win team. The team that I gave you my team that I think is a sleeper in the AFC that will make the playoffs, Baltimore. The team that I don't think is going to make the playoffs is Cincinnati.
Really?
I
tell me why. I disagree with you.
I think Cincinnati. I think Cincinnati because now they are the rabbit.
Yep.
They're the rabbit. Everybody's chasing them now. And everybody in this division, I think, has gotten better. Last year, this division, Pittsburgh didn't have a quarterback. Baltimore didn't have a quarterback. Theirs were injured. Baltimore was injured everywhere on defense. Cleveland's quarterback was hurt half the time, and their whole team was just in disarray, other than their defense. Their defense was top-notch. Cincinnati was the only team that had sort of some stability, even though their offensive line wasn't worth anything, but they had stability on the defense, and they had stability at the quarterback position. They were the only team in the AFC North with stability at the quarterback position. If Lamar stays healthy, Pittsburgh seems like they're going to be a better team. If Cleveland can weather the storm with Brissett until Watson comes back, because that defense is top notch, Cincinnati's going to have a hard time at winning this division this year.
I don't know,
Even though I know Cincinnati has upgraded, areas on their team,
I think they have the best quarterback in the division, even with Watson.
Oh, there's no question.
I think Joe Burrow is the best quarterback in that division.
I don't think he's running. I don't think he's the.
Derek, I think he's an MVP candidate.
Well,
I think
is Lamar Jackson.
Well, Lamar has already won one.
Sure, but I don't think he's going to win another one.
I don't know if he will, or I don't know if he will not.
Well, I would say the odds makers have them both in the mix of MVP
and
candidates.
Herbert is too. I mean,
but
Burrow,
just looking
Herbert.
at that division, though, I think it's a really interesting thing you guys are throwing out there. Could the Bengals regress? It does happen to some teams, right? You make it to the Super Bowl, everything looks good. This is the Bengals we're talking about, like not hardly the model for consistent year in, year out, smart decisions. I don't know. And the Ravens have been a much more consistent team who had a ton of adversity last year, still finished 8-9. Because they finished 8-9 and finished last, here are the three teams they get to play: Atlanta, Jacksonville, and the Giants. That's 3 wins right there because they finished last.
3 wins.
Well, I mean they're gonna win those 3. And they play the AFC East, so they get the Jets in there too. I think the Ravens are a pretty good bet to get back to double-digit wins.
So I'm going to here's mine out of the AFC, and it's bold.
Okay.
TT, 2 a time. Miami.
So you say Miami.
Yeah.
I think I think look, you had Tyreek
Hill. They won
Hill.
9 games last year.
They won 9 games last year, and Tua. This is the or get off the pot time for Tua. And you add Tyreek Hill. They've gone through a lot of stuff, but I still think that they're going to be in that division. You don't know what New England is necessarily, even though New England was a playoff team last year. Buffalo, it's their division, I believe, but I think Miami could be one. Could definitely be a shocker like there is every year. Mike Vrabel, I believe, is about to address the media, but we'll bring that to you a little bit later because coming up next, George Plaster going to join us here on 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Heads up. 106.3 FM is a new way to hear 102.5 The Game from downtown Nashville to Spring Hill on I-65 and on I-24 to Murfreesboro.
Make sure you have that preset on your radio dial.
We're making it even easier to listen to Nashville's best sports talk.
Because we have a great show planned for you today.
Tune in to 106.3.
That's what makes this team better.
And hear the difference.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
Are you sick and tired of constant pain in your knees, hips, or back? Especially this time of the year. You need to be moving pain-free, right? Hey, Willy here for the team at QC Kinetics. QC Kinetics is helping people every day, giving them lasting pain relief using the latest advances in regenerative medicine. The science is simple. They concentrate your own body's healing agents and apply them to your aching joints, restoring and repairing the damaged tissue. No drugs, no steroids, no surgery. The old remedies for pain are not the only remedies. You need to learn more about how regenerative medicine at QC Kinetics can change your life. Make this the last summer you suffer from chronic pain. They've got clinics here and all over America. This is the exciting new, natural way to deal with joint pain. No side effects, no downtime. So call the local medical professionals at QC Kinetics. 615-249-4024. That's 615-249-4024. 615-249-4024 for QC Kinetics.
If you missed the latest from Robbie and Rex Road.
The expectation for the defense should be pretty high. And, top 5, top 7, whatever you want to throw it out there. Like, nobody's talking about that around the league. Like, I think most people don't have the same expectation around the league that we have here locally for this Titans defense.
Bottom 10.
Yeah, apparently so. A lot of people, and this keeps going back to, like, people have no clue who David Long Jr. is. Not a clue. Just no idea who David Long Jr. is around the league. And that's fine. I think they're going to find out this year because I think he's going to be a pretty darn good player for this Titans team. But, I was thinking about it. Jared just said that he thought that Zach Cunningham may be the 10th best player on this defense. And I'm kind of going through it right now. I mean, he may be right. He may be 9th or 10th as I go through the defense right now. And if that's the case, you're probably in pretty good shape if you're the Titans on that side of the ball.
Tune in Robbie and Rex with Robbie Stanley and Joe Rexrode. Weekday mornings from 6 to 10 on ESPN, 102.5 The Game, and the Game Nashville app.
Tennessee has lots of buried pipelines, so it's important to know the signs of a leak, like if you smell unusual odors or hear hissing. Ew. See bubbling earth or water, or dead or dying vegetation. Some signs are even harder to miss, like dirt being blown into the air, a frost ball in an open field, or a flame coming from the ground. If you see any of these signs, don't wait. Leave the area immediately and call 911 or your pipeline company. For more tips on pipeline safety, visit pipesafety.org. A message from the Tennessee Gas Association, Tennessee Association of Broadcasters, and this station.
From the Hillside Medical Game Studios, WPRT-FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne.
Chase Elliott scores the win in the Ally 400 at the Nashville Super Speedway.
Nashville's exclusive home for NASCAR. 102.5 and 106.3.
Terang, it's a high fly ball.
We got pass rushers.
Awesome game.
Checkered flag in the air.
The Game.
A Cromwell Media Station.
Now let's see if we can bring them to life, all right?
Bringing you entertainment and informative sports talk during your workday.
Smart, funny, classy, and I like him a lot.
This is Chase, Willy, and D-Mase with Chase McCabe, Willy Donick.
Mason, touchdown, Tennessee.
And former NFL wide receiver Derek Mason on Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game, and on the Game Nashville app.
This is a new level of geek you got going on here.
12 o'clock hour, Chase, Willy, and D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Chase McCabe, Willy Donick, Derek Mason with you next week, Thursday at noon. At this time, Silly Underdog Picks makes its return. You can sign up today at thegamenashville.com or on the 102.5 The Game app. Silly Underdog Picks is presented by Volunteer Hose and Gasket. And I am so excited that Derek is going to be back in the fold to be a part of Silly Underdog Picks. He is a veteran. He and Chris Sanders can chirp each other. Kelly Holcomb is going to be back as a member of the panel. I will be back. And the guy that invented the whole thing, we got to make this official, George Plaster. Hello, director.
Chase, how are you?
You know I am fantastic. How are you? This is great music.
It is good music. It's probably not as good as I thought it was in 1984 because I've heard it about 8,000 times since then. But you would think the Van Halen people would send me like a free CD or
a
something.
gift box or something.
I mean, look, you've created a brand, and I know some people in this industry don't understand what a brand is, but you created it with that music, and, so it's been good.
Yes, and I know who you're talking about there. That's a good inside joke that we can do. Mace, are you sure you want to get back in this contest?
Hey, George, I got to redeem myself, man. I didn't leave on a good note, so I got to redeem myself. I'm back.
That last season was a little rough.
Exactly.
Derek, one year I was 0-14 at one point. It was, and my attitude at the end of it absolutely sucked. It's embarrassing. I mean, you sit there and you try to come off like you're some sort of an expert all week talking about things. And then people get to hear you, and you choose a team and they get beat 74-8. That's hard to explain.
How many of those were bookets, George?
Oh, man.
Well, the worst one I ever had, and Willie remembers this, was I had gotten this notion back. It was the first year that they allowed the bubble screen. And Miami was going to Arizona State for a night game. and I did this big, this Arizona State, they're going to be fired up. They're going to be, about 2 plays into the game. And I booked it. And 2 plays into the game, Miami throws this bubble screen where the lineman now legally can get downfield. And, I mean, there wasn't anybody from there to Las Vegas to touch this guy. And I just sort of said, I am going to get crushed. And it was like 71-7.
Good Lord.
It was bad. Now, that just for a time reference, this is how long we've done this. That was one of the first years that we did the competition, George. So I'm going to say that was 1994. I think it was either 94 or 95. So that's how far back we're going with the book it. And there was another week that you did something about a desert swarm. Was Arizona the desert swarm, or was it Arizona State? Remember they had the desert. You made this big to do about desert swarm, and it didn't happen.
No, it was desert dead. There have been, when you try to have fun with this, and you try to sell things, but the best one that ever happened, the all-time best one, was we were at the arena.
Yep.
Willie, I know you know where this is going.
I know where this is going.
Yeah, and there's a TV that I can see, and it comes Kelly's time, and he picks Toledo. Well,
I heard
Toledo
about
game
this
has already
story.
started, and they're up 14-0, and I decide I'm going to let him have it. I called him a cheater. I called him all kinds of stuff. I knew full well he didn't know. And he's having to defend himself. And there's a part of him, he knows full well I don't really care that, I know he didn't do it on purpose. But then there's another part of him. Why is this pipsqueak hurling these accusations at me? It was hilarious.
It was. And what happened was we did a rules committee study, and we had to take it, decide at the end of the season whether the win would count or not, because Toledo won the game. And we had to determine, was Kelly telling the truth when he made the pick? He didn't know that the game had started. George's like, that game's already started. It's 14-0. The guy that was really upset, because we ended up giving him the win at the end of the year, the late Floyd Reese, he was not happy about that. He was like, come on. He doesn't deserve to get that.
He threatened to take it to the competition committee.
Yes, he did. He did. Now, George, you need to know this, too. Chris Sanders is in the competition. Chris has a very unique method of picking. Okay, so just get ready for this.
Yeah, I don't think George is going to finish last.
Well, Chris has done this for 2 years, George, and he has the same philosophy both years. 1 year, it worked really well. Last year, he was at 1 point 2-30 on the season. We picked 2 games last year.
Okay, 2-30.
2-30, yeah.
He gets the Rich Kotite Award.
Yes. Chris will pick the biggest underdogs on the board. Like, he goes for the long bomb every week, right? And it's feast or famine. So if he gets them, he gets big points. But he doesn't. He will whiff a lot. He has a lot of desert swarms.
Should we tell the story, the Nebraska deal?
Oh yeah.
Pissed me off. This was back when I was doing Vandy games.
Oh, yeah.
Willie was a part of it as well.
I think we were on a plane coming home from a game when this game took place.
So we have taken – we're about to take off, and I think it's from Athens, Georgia. And I've got Missouri, and they are a huge, big double-digit dog at home to Nebraska. And I'm like, yeah, here we go. Well, we get home, and I immediately dial up one of these scoreline things and find out that Nebraska has won.
Yeah, this is pre-cell phone. For people that don't know, this is pre-cell phone. This is 1997.
This is car phone. This is those Motorola.
Yeah, very large phones that had the squiggly wire in the car that's in there. So this is 97 Nebraska. Scott Frost, who's now the coach at Nebraska, he was the quarterback. This is a team that ended up tying or splitting the national championship with Michigan and Charles Woodson. This is that year, right? So they're playing Missouri at Missouri, and Missouri's got a chance to win it. So down the stretch, George, when we got off I don't think we knew this was going on at the time. We had to go back and watch the highlights. But you remember the play. You remember the play, though.
Oh, do I ever remember the play? The play infuriated me because it was a tip ball where a Nebraska wide receiver sort of gets it with his foot. He's on the ground, and it pops straight up, and he catches it. And the guy's name was Matt Davison. Now, the reason I remember that is a 3 years later, I'm up in Bowling Green doing a Western Kentucky TV game. They're playing Nebraska, and the color analyst is Matt Davison. And I'm like, I am not going to pass up this chance. So I go introduce myself, and I said, I just need you to know that one day you ruined my life. And I told him what happened on the catch, and he loved it. I mean, that's the kind of stuff, after you get out of playing and you hear that kind of stuff, former players love hearing that kind of stuff. And he got a big kick out of it. He got a big charge out of it. It didn't do anything for me.
Too funny. George, I should have, started this off by saying the Hall of Famer, because you were recently inducted into the Tennessee Radio Hall of Fame, and congratulations to you. Well-deserved, a no-brainer in my opinion. So what comes with being a Hall of Famer now? I mean, do you have a police escort everywhere you go? I mean, what happens?
Did they give you a jacket?
You get a jacket?
No, hold on. Let me tell you what went on there. First of all, Chase, thank you for the nice words, but here's what ends up happening. So I select Willy to be the presenter, and I paid him some money. Here are the notes I want you to run through.
I did mention "Jump" by Van Halen during the speech.
You did. So about halfway through the speech, I look down. I'm wearing a black suit, and I've got on a red and silver tie that initially looked really good until I spilled dinner all over. Oh, no. and I'm like, what the hell do I do? And so I was given, some instructions: button the coat, button it. Well, I get up there. And I could have gone through it without saying it, but I thought, what the heck, let's have some fun. So I just told everybody, I said, the reason I've got the button buttoned is I have had a John Belushi and Animal House moment. And I said, y'all aren't going to see it. I just looked at it a couple of minutes ago. I have not yet taken it to the dry cleaner. It's embarrassing.
But it was a good move. Fortunately, it was low enough on the tie that the button did cover the stain. If it was any higher on the tie, then you couldn't have covered it up. It would have been exposed. You'd have had to change ties.
And, it was, in all seriousness, it was an incredibly cool moment. Willy and Darren were both there, which I really appreciated. A bunch of the guys off the first Vanderbilt team that I ever broadcast in hoops were there, led by Will Perdue. A big table of BGA folks were there. It was just really, it was really special, really meaningful.
Yeah, and look, it was. I know it meant so much to you. It was well deserved. Even having Willy induct you, now having Aaron Donnick induct you could have been a little more entertaining, perhaps.
Probably
but
so.
but Willy was a good choice.
Well, look, I never thought about Aaron. Oh, my God.
She was there.
Can you imagine what she'd have said? George can be a jerk. But we still love him. Willy, think about that.
Oh, man. There could just in an alternate universe. That's a what-if question that will never be answered.
Oh, I don't know. I think we could a
recreation.
Listen, Aaron, for several years, they've been nice enough to invite me over for Thanksgiving for dinner. And Aaron has a way of having more people in that house than can even fit. But last year, she made an announcement that, they had scaled it back a little bit. And I couldn't resist. I just said, Aaron, in front of everybody, I said, let me ask you. I said, how close was I to not making the cut?
For COVID purposes, we had to cut it down because in 2020 it was just the family, right?
Uh-huh.
We were basically locked down for that. That was that big thing, like should you have anybody over?
Yeah.
And so we didn't go there. And then last year was kind of a modified. And so there were some family members a little older, our parents and stuff, and so we didn't want to have people crawling through the windows and stuff like we have in the past. So we did have to knock the number down, but George made the cut. So he did ask in front of everybody. How close was it?
I did ask in front of everybody.
Yeah.
I think, to be real honest, I think I was in the play-in game in Dayton.
Hey, Willie had to vouch for you, huh?
Yeah. Well, George,
it was a great win in Dayton.
George, I'll end it with this. Willie walked in here today with his goofy Mets hat on because he knows our Braves are a game and a half back, and the chop is coming.
It's getting hairy.
It's getting hairy, but I got to tell you, Chase, this is I know a lot of people are, they're right there, they're going to get it done. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. Because, Max Scherzer and Jacob deGrom guarantee that they're not going to have a lot of long losing streaks. Y'all know, I know Willie knows, I've got a little past history with Buck Showalter because he was on the first Sounds team that I ever broadcast.
Yeah.
And I talked to his wife recently, and I told her to pass on to Buck that, I am no fan of what they're doing. But I did tell her, if it ever gets to a point where the Braves are out and maybe it comes down to the Mets and the Dodgers, go Mets.
I agree with that. I will give you that for sure.
I like their team.
I do too. I just hate that they're in our division. That's the tough part. But, George, thanks so much for doing this. We look forward to having you a part of what you created in Silly Underdog Picks again this year. I'm sure there will be a lot of trash talking between you and Kelly especially, so we look forward to it next week.
Who's the commissioner?
It's still one William Donick.
Oh, my God. I thought we tried to teach him one year.
Kelly's tried every year.
Oh, Kelly always tries to make a run, a coup d'etat. He always tries to overthrow
Kelly
the commissioner.
would even be happy if his wife was commissioner.
No doubt.
He can get very grumpy.
Yes, he can.
That's a good one, Willie. I like that.
Plas, thanks so much.
Take care.
All right, George Plaster, Radio Hall of Famer here in the state of Tennessee, joining us for Silly Underdog Picks. It'll all get started next Thursday at 12 o'clock here on 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Practice today, plus you'll hear from the head coach, Mike Vrabel, here on 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Join Chase McCabe for Chasing Checkers every Sunday morning at 8 for all the news in the world of motorsports.
Joey Logano gets the very first victory in the next-gen car
while hearing from the big names.
Two-time champion Kyle Busch.
Being able to bring NASCAR, the Cup Series, back to Nashville is cool.
It's Chasing Checkers, presented by Apple Collision Centers and the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway.
On ESPN
102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And the Game Nashville app.
Getting close, folks, and I'm inviting you to kick off week 1 of the NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Joe Ruxford here to let you know that if you join today, you get started with $150 in free bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Sign up with promo code Joe102 to get in on the action. Turn game day into payday all season long. A lot of different future bets I might go with. I'd be maybe looking at the Titans on the over on their over-under in wins for the season, for example, if you want to go locally. You can do a lot more than just, of course, final score of a game as well. You can go touchdowns, yards. You can combine bets for a same-game parlay. It's fast, it's easy, it's fun. Don't fumble your chance to get $150 in free bets, win or lose, with promo code Joe102. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. You must be 21 or older in present Tennessee. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued is now withdrawable free bets that expire 14 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line, 800-889-9789.
Honey, what's an 8-letter word for difficult to explain?
When we planned on retiring, we never planned on Medicare being so confusing.
What's a 6-letter word for special skills or knowledge?
Fortunately, Farm Bureau Health Plans is an expert on all things Medicare. With 75 years of helping Tennesseans, they helped us understand our Medicare options.
Why are these things so complicated?
Talk to your local representative or visit fbhp.com. Farm Bureau Health Plans. Plan on us.
Hey, it's Mike from Newton Chevrolet Buick GMC. We all know that you're not supposed to wear white after Labor Day. So with that in mind, we're discounting all of our white vehicles. Well, maybe we should just discount the lighter colors that are close to white too, and maybe the red and blue ones since we celebrate this in America. Okay, fine. I'll discount all the cars, starting right now. On top of that, we want to celebrate all of your hard work with the most American lunch we can think of. Hot dogs. Hot dogs all day on Labor Day. So come kick your feet up, get a new car of any color, and enjoy a hot dog. You can even shop online for a new car with Newton FastPass. But you'll have to make your own hot dogs that way. Sorry. Visit NewtonChevroletBuickGMC.com to learn more.
When you want to rock.
Let's go, don't wait. This night's almost over. Do all the monsters come out at night? Why do we sleep when we want to?
We are Nashville's rock station. 102.9 The Buzz.
It's on. It's happening.
Remember, you can watch us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Twitter.
Get out of the way, I'm watching the game.
Presented by the law offices of Amanda Gentry.
I'm ready to step this up a notch.
You're listening to Chase, Willy, and D-Mase on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game, and on the Game Nashville app.
Chase, Willy, and D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Appreciate George Plaster for joining us. Hey, don't miss the Eddie George Show featuring Jonathan Hutton on 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Every Monday night at 6 o'clock, live from 6 and Peabody. Eddie will also start joining this show every Friday at 1 o'clock. So, Derek, I think you're familiar with him.
Absolutely.
You guys know each other.
Just a little. But
look forward to having Eddie on with us to discuss, obviously, TSU and what's going on there, and also the Titans and what he sees out of them as well. So it'll be fun to have Eddie on every week. We're live at the Hillside Medical Game Studios. Jill Jelnick of Fox 17 going to join us at the bottom of the hour. We'll get her report from practice today. But I think the big thing that has stood out to me in just reading everybody's tweets is the fact that Derrick Henry was a part of the 11-on-11 team drills, and you could see the difference in the offense because of how they were able to execute play action and obviously his effectiveness on the ground.
Well, again, that goes back to what I said, about Ryan Tannehill and why people, even with his numbers and how efficient he has been as a Tennessee Titan quarterback, people still are not truly sold on his ability to lead this team to a Super Bowl because they know it all runs through Derrick Henry. And last year, Derrick Henry wasn't there. This year, hopefully he can play all 17 games, and I think that will put the Titans back in the same position they were in 2 years ago. Where, was it 2 years ago or 3 years ago, where they were in the AFC Championship game?
I think it's 2019.
2019. Yeah. So as long as Derrick Henry is in the backfield, this team has the potential, and their expectation, I think, is to get back to the AFC Championship game.
You know what's interesting is you've been pretty strong, Derek, all along, that you believe that Derrick Henry is still that level.
Yeah.
And it's hard for us to tell, and I'm glad he's getting some work in. At some point, you knew that he's going to have to get some work. I listened to Mike Vrabel talk about this a little bit yesterday. Derek and he talk about, okay, what do you want to do? And apparently Derek is the one pushing to want to do more at the practices. Mm-hmm. And Mike Vrabel's like saying, look, I know you're chomping at the bit to get going here, but let's be smart about this. I do wonder what the talks have been like behind the scenes on what's the best way to have him in peak form when the season starts. Because there's any number of theories, right? Give it to him more. He was rusty in the playoff game. I think we all agree. I think Derek would say, if Derrick Henry was at the podium right now, he'd probably say, in retrospect, I was a little rusty for that game. So does he need a few carries on Saturday? Probably not, but I'm sure somebody floated that idea out there. What's the best way to have you in tip-top shape? I just love seeing him out there.
I love seeing him out there too. I mean, injuries are going to happen in the NFL. They always do. But if this team keeps their core healthy, including Tannehill, including Henry, and gets production through the passing game with these receivers, whether it's Burks or the others that we've talked about, you have to feel really good about this offense being matched up with this defense, because I think this defense is going to be one of the top 5 in the league.
Yeah.
Potentially.
I don't see any reason why they will not duplicate or even be better than what they were last season. Now, again, the cornerback situation for me is sort of a question mark because of the lack of minutes on the field for those corners. But the defense should be a top-notch defense, and you couple that with Derrick Henry being back a full season, hopefully. I think this team is in a position, to be back where they were 2 years ago. Now, will they get there? I don't know, but they have put themselves in a position, and a lot of it is predicated on whether, those corners can really step up, and then that offensive line. What do they do once the cuts are made? Do they address the offensive line by bringing in other guys, veteran guys? Because I can't see them just staying put with what they got.
So you have the offensive line questions. You have the fact that when Derrick Henry's back there, he's going to face the stacked box. And these are all things we've talked about, but these are themes that I think it's worth bringing them back up because they will be the big questions as the season unfolds. And that is, even with Henry healthy now, does he show signs of slowing down? And those analytical categories that we touched on, broken tackle rate, rate of runs that gained 10-plus yards, all those things that even though last year he was putting up the yards, it wasn't quite as efficient as it had been the 2 seasons before that. Can he bounce back even and have progression there, or is this the start of the trend of a lot of running backs as they age that they lose just that little bit of explosiveness, etc.? So there's a lot of things stacked up against Derrick Henry right now. Can he rebound to being a superstar, MVP caliber kind of guy?
I think the only thing that will hamper that is the offensive line and their ability to block for him. Now, I would assume they will be running to the left much more than they would to the right because of the situation on the right side of the line. So that's the only sort of hiccup I see in regards to Derrick Henry's numbers. Can the offensive line establish themselves as a legitimate run blocking team, not pass blocking, because they've had their troubles last year with pass blocking, but they've always hunkered down when it came to run blocking. So can that be the same this year with the guys they have on the line?
We'll find out what happened at practice today and talk to Fox 17 sports director Jill Jelnick coming up next. Chase, Willy, and D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. But first, Willy, tell us about QC Kinetics.
All right. Glad to tell you about QC Kinetics because this is something you want to pay attention to if you've had some joint pain issue that's lingering and keeping you from doing the things that you love doing. Look, we all like to, in the summertime, do our thing, whether it's out on the golf course, whether you like to hike, fish, swim, anything. And if you have the joint pain as you get older, it gets harder and harder to do that freely if it's in the hips, in the back. But that's where QC Kinetics comes in. They have the regenerative medicine that restores and repairs the damaged tissue. It's a non-traditional way. It's new and it's exciting. The traditional ways with the steroid shots, maybe a surgery, something like that. They're not the only ways, even though those can be very successful as well. But don't assume that that is the only way of dealing with joint pain. Look into QC Kinetics, where they use those healing properties from your own body to restore and repair that damaged joint tissue. You can get a free consultation by calling QC Kinetics today. They're in our listening area, and they've been helping a lot of people. 615-249-4024. That's 615-249-4024. 615-249-4024 for QC Kinetics.
Hey, Preds fans.
Running across to make the save is Sarah.
You can now hear Nashville's best sports talk.
The backhander, he scores!
And every Predators game on 106.3 FM.
Oh, that was a thing of beauty.
From downtown Nashville to Rutherford and Williamson counties.
Duchesne with the overtime winner.
Catch all the action on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
At Cordell & Cordell, we focus on representing men in domestic relations cases.
Attorney CPA Joe Cordell.
We recognize that our clients are going through perhaps the toughest time they will ever go through. We understand that everything that's important to them is on the table. Their assets, the role in their children's lives. That's an immense responsibility that our clients entrust us with, and we take that very seriously. We've been trained to do that. We've helped thousands of clients before. And it's our hope that you'll choose to entrust us with what's most important to you.
The attorneys at Cordell & Cordell work to help men maximize their role in their children's lives. Contact the domestic litigation firm of Cordell & Cordell to schedule an appointment with one of our firm's Nashville area attorneys, a partner men can count on. 615-457-8700. Online at CordellCordell.com. That's CordellCordell.com. Offices in Nashville, Franklin, Murfreesboro, and Gallatin. Cordell & Cordell, 810 Crescent Center Drive, Suite 160, Franklin, Tennessee, 37067.
312 Pizza Company is Nashville's authentic Chicago pizzeria, and they're now hiring. Work for a family-owned business and be a part of their incredible team. 312 Pizza Company is hiring for all positions, including host, waitstaff, bartenders, cooks, and more. 312 Pizza Company offers health insurance and pay time off to full-time employees. Contact Kimberly at 615-730-7888 or email at contact@312pizzaco.com. 312 is an equal opportunity employer.
Kenny Mayne here with this declaration for new Caesar Sportsbook app users from Caesar. Your first bet's on us, is what Caesar told me to say. That means if you don't win, you get up to $1,250 back as a free bet. Download the Caesar Sportsbook app and sign up with the code RADIOFULL.
Open to new users in Tennessee who are 21 or older. Qualifying bet loses. Bet amount returned as a credit. Must use within 14 days. See Caesar.com/promos for full terms. Gambling problem? Call or text the Tennessee Red Line at 1-800-889-9789.
Your home for Hit City is 94.9 The Fan.
Your Nashville Sounds continue their series at Durham.
Swing and a miss, strike three. Sounds win.
Pre-game at 5:20
on your home for Sounds baseball. 94.9 The Fan and The Fan app.
Hey Nashville, this is Penny Hardaway, University of Memphis coach. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Chase, Willy, and D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3, The Game, streaming on the Game Nashville app. Chase McCabe, Willie Donick, Derek Mason with you. We'll go to our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and say hello to Fox 17 Sports Director Jill Jelnick, who is on the line with us. Jill, how are you?
Good. I finally stopped sweating for 1 second. Last day of training camp, and I think I finally have mastered how to try to look good on camera while also sweating the entire time. So that's good. That's good, Chase. Thanks for having me on, guys.
That is a win for sure. So the big news that I saw on Twitter was when the Titans lined up for 11-on-11, there was a monster truck with 22 lined up in the backfield, Derrick Henry, and it made the offense look like it needs to look. What did you see out of Derrick today?
It really did. I think monster truck is a very good analogy. It was very obvious the Titans were ramping him up with what, little less than 2 weeks left till that first game against the Giants, the season opener. This was by far the most reps we've seen Derrick Henry take in a practice. He was in team periods yesterday, but he did far more work today and was really grinding, making some amazing cuts, turning on the speed. I think clearly it was great to see him out there. I mean, if anyone had any doubt about his health at all of that was completely diminished today. He looked fantastic, but I think the bigger picture is, guys, that looked like the Titans offense that we're going to see September 11th against the Giants. It looked very much like, hopefully, what we're going to see week one, where Derrick Henry is making guys miss and doing his thing while Tannehill is peppering his wide receivers. I think Nick Westbrook-Akina has emerged as a clear favorite for Ryan Tannehill, and I know the wide receiver room going into this training camp was a huge storyline. What are we going to expect from them? What are we going to see? Who's going to emerge? Obviously, Robert Woods, I still believe is going to be a big veteran, but Nick Westbrook-Akina and his progress from a year ago stands out. So I think today the biggest takeaway, not just King Henry, but that Titans offense looks pretty darn good with a little less than 2 weeks to go.
What's your concern level, though, with Treylon Burks and the fact that, you know, they always use the phrase, your best ability is availability, and it appears that that's not all there right now. Don't know if he's dealing with something, but we've seen this going back to minicamp, that there's been times he hasn't been able to finish practice.
Correct. Yesterday he did not finish practice. He left practice early. Today he did not practice. He was seen warming up, getting a workout in on the bike. So yes, I completely agree with you. If you can't be on the field, then you're not contributing. Then yes, that's a concern in itself. But it's a concern any time that any of the players are missing time at practice. I think it's more concerning because he was the first-round draft pick, because that wide receiver group has still, had a ton of question marks going into this year. It's also a big concern because the Titans traded away A.J. Brown, and they got another draft pick, and they moved up in the draft and got Treylon Burks. I think the expectations for him were high, and that's, you could put that on the media, you could put that on the fans, you could put that on whoever you want, but first-round draft pick, yeah, their expectations are going to be high. And for him to not even be able to finish practice, of course, that's a concern. Hopefully it is nothing serious. Like you said, we don't know too much about the extent of it. He looked good at the start of training camp, and then really last week started to tail off a little bit. And then yesterday didn't finish practice, as I mentioned, and today was just on the bike.
Now, Jill, Bud Dupree hasn't, been out there much, nor has, I believe, Harold Landry. Were they participating full go today? And if so, how did they look?
Yeah, no, both. I think they're kind of similar with some of those other defensive starters where they may not be on, full blast every single series, but they were out there today, no problem. They weren't on the list of players that weren't practicing at all. We didn't see Elijah Molden. We didn't see Jamarco Jones, D'Amico Autry, and Naquan Jones. So those are the guys that we noticed were absent today. But Bud Dupree, I saw him getting on one-on-one work before the 7-on-7, kind of on his own. He looks good. I don't see him missing a beat at all. And Harold Landry, ever since, to be honest, ever since his contract extension, I think he's just been kind of going through the motions and playing it safe, and haven't seen him maybe like stand out or jump out, but that's not a concern. I think he's on his own plan, just like we've talked about Big Jeff being on his plan, Derrick Henry being on his plan. I think Harold Landry just falls into that category, someone on their own plan. So even though they haven't stood out defensively the last, in training camp, not something I'm worried about.
We'll talk with Jill.
Does that make sense?
Oh, it does make sense a lot. I'm not too worried about that defense as a whole. Jill, we'll talk with Jill Jelnick, sports director over at Fox 17. I'm not too concerned about them as a whole. But I am a little bit concerned, and I voiced my concerns to the guys about the secondary. Not that I don't believe they can get the job done or can play, but I just don't think they have enough veteran leadership in the cornerback room, not necessarily as a whole, because you have Kevin Byard in the back end, who's the best safety in the National Football League. But I just think those corners have not logged enough minutes in the NFL that I can truly say, hey, listen, this secondary, these corners are going to be one of the better groups in the National Football League.
D-Mase, I think that's absolutely fair. You're talking about just NFL experience, minutes, playing time, starting, and that's fair. It is a very young cornerback group. But you mentioned the huge key factor, and that's the leadership of Kevin Byard. And Kevin Byard spoke at the podium today after practice and was asked specifically about how he felt, one, about the defense, and two, about the cornerback. One, he said that the overall IQ of this defense is a lot higher than years past. So he didn't come out and say, this is the best defense we've ever had. He said the overall IQ of this defense has been raised and is higher than years past. We are a lot more knowledgeable, and which is interesting because they do have some younger players specifically at that cornerback position. Then he went on to talk about the cornerbacks and spoke very highly about the progression of those three guys, and went on to say, hey, any combination of those three guys, right? We're talking about Christian Fulton, we're talking about Roger McCrary, and then we're also talking about, help me out, Caleb Farley. Right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Did I miss anybody? When
nope.
talking about those guys, he talked about how he felt confident any combination of those three, regardless of who starts, he feels like they're very good cover guys. Throw them in there, they will make it work, their talent, their skill level. And D-Mase, you're absolutely right about the experience in that position, because Caleb Farley is just coming back. He's still so young. Roger McCrary, a rookie. Christian Fulton getting more experience now. They're young, but I think Kevin's overall point is the talent's there, the speed's there, the skill's there. And with Byard's leadership in that safety group and overall in that secondary, he is not concerned. He made me not feel concerned today. And so I think I'm going to trust KB when he says that he likes the progression they're on. Okay, KB, I'll listen to you. I'll take your word for it, my friend.
Jill Jelenic is with us. Jill, along those lines, they made a trade for another veteran yesterday, and he's got the Nashville ties from Overton High School, Ugo Amadi. Did they talk about him much today, about maybe where he fits in all of this?
Ugo, when we go, right? I think we're going to have a combination of those phrases.
You're just giving some people a great idea for signs in the stands from Overton. They're going to be at the Titans games with those.
First of all, you're welcome. There you go. You know what, Willy? We got a chance to talk to Ugo today. But to answer your first question, Vrabel talked about him a little bit, and Vrabel gave his kind of typical, hey, here's the surface answer I'm going to give you. Health-wise, they needed some depth. They're concerned in some areas health-wise. They wanted to bring him on, someone with some experience. And basically, Vrabel kind of talked about he has some good reps, knowledgeable of the game, some experience. We needed some depth, so we brought him along. No big dark secrets from Vrabel, but we did get a chance to talk to Ugo today, and it seemed like he wasn't catching his breath from practice. It seemed like he was catching his breath from like the last couple of days. He talked about how quick of a turnaround this was, got the phone call, came on over to Nashville, talked about just how grateful he is to be here in the city. He's obviously a John Overton grad, and now we have two John Overton grads with Theo Jackson as well. And Theo talked to the media today and talked about how he was laughing so hard there was going to be another Bobcat, and he kind of knew of Ugo from before, from high school, and Ugo actually knew Kevin Byard. He's worked out with Kevin Byard here in Nashville. They've trained together. So Ugo is not just, jumping into a whole new environment. He actually seemed like he was settling in nicely, kind of gave us that impression now that he's kind of caught his breath a little bit, but wants to contribute any way he can. And hopefully he'll be a good addition for them. And it definitely does not hurt to add depth, especially after the injury issues this team faced last year. Always a good idea to add some more depth.
Jill, before we let you go, Football Frenzy Live Week 2 tomorrow on Fox 17.
Yes,
go ahead and get the plug in. I got you.
Hey, I'm telling you, man, Titans is always so much fun, but Friday night, if you want to experience the chaos of Friday night football in Tennessee, I'm telling you, all you have to do is just tune in to Fox 17 at 9:30. I have 30 minutes where we run through as many high school games as we can. We get some post-game interviews as well. We have a great game of the week. Brentwood Academy, CPA at Brentwood Academy. Looking forward to that game, and then also some other fun games. We got NBA has a big game. Who are they playing? Why is it escaping me at the moment? Pro Cone. Pro Cone versus
that'll be a good one.
NBA. Can't wait for that one. So we got a lot of great games. The chaos, the frenzy starts at 9:30, and I'll tell you everything you need to know on Fox 17.
Very, very good. Thank you so much, my friend, and we'll do it again soon.
Bye, gentlemen. Have a great weekend. And, hey, training camp is over. Let's get this Titans season started. Woo!
Thank you, Jill. Jill Jelnick, Fox 17 Sports Director, joining us, and she is right in our training camp coverage presented by Parman Energy, your one-stop petroleum solution. You can catch her on Fox 17 at 5:30, 9, and 10. Later this afternoon. Coming up next, you'll hear from the head coach, Mike Vrabel. We'll do that next. 102.5, 106.3, The Game.
The Sports Talk doesn't end on Friday. Join Michelle Knezovic every Saturday morning at 9.
I've got my extra large coffee.
As she talks about the big stories of the week.
Predators news, the Tennessee Titans.
And looks ahead to the weekend.
Oh, I'm so excited.
On Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3, The Game and the Game Nashville app.
From the Fox 17 News Code Red Weather Center.
I'm Fox 17 Code Red meteorologist Greg Bovis, right near 90 degrees once again today. A few isolated showers or weak thunderstorms can't be ruled out. This afternoon through this evening, mainly south of I-40. All that action turns off as we get closer to sunset.
This weather report brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
Call the Happy Face Truck today.
Hey everybody, Big Joe here for Apple Collision Centers. And you know I'm always on the go, but the distraction that an automobile accident causes could even slow my pace down to a stop. But my friend and CEO of Apple Collision Centers, Stan Harrison, has a plan to get you and I back on the road and fast.
We at Apple Collision Centers know you deserve the best quality service. We always recommend original equipment parts, and we use only the best Sherwin-Williams finishes. 3 convenient locations, Hendersonville, Gallatin, and Old Hickory. And you can always visit us online for your estimate needs at applecollisioncenters.com.
It's a fact. Guys hate going to the doctor. But when it comes to erectile dysfunction and low testosterone issues, men from all over Middle Tennessee have been thrilled seeing Dr. Alderson and their providers at the Tennessee Men's Clinic. Men all the way up to 95 years old have jump-started their sex drive and energy levels. Lots of men suffer with ED for years, but now they're able to enjoy sex again. Tom from Nashville said, "The Tennessee Men's Clinic has changed my life. I have been able to be intimate with my wife for the first time in 5 years. She thought this problem was because of her, but the pills never worked for me. I had given up until I went to the clinic and realized there were more options for erectile dysfunction. Now I'm happy and my wife is happy. A visit for only $99, and that includes all testing, including a PSA and testosterone test. Give the guys at the clinic a call at 615-208-9090. That's 615-208-9090. Or go to TennesseeMen'sClinic.com.
Visit our website to learn more, including side effects, treatments, extra, results vary.
This week's Nashville's Best Deal is Seafood Sensation. Often imitated but never duplicated, Seafood Sensation is Nashville's original seafood restaurant. Right now, you can get half off a $25 gift card at theGameNashville.com/deals and enjoy some of your favorite seafood dishes, like their crab legs platter, grilled salmon, and more. That's Seafood Sensation, located at 2719 Jefferson Street near the TSU campus. Get half off a $25 gift card while they last at theGameNashville.com/deals.
Throughout the country, buried pipelines are indicated by a pipeline right-of-way. A long, wide stretch of grass cleared of trees and marked with signs. If you have a right-of-way near your home, do not plant anything in it or dig in it. Do not install a fence or build your kids a super cool fort without first getting the pipeline operator's approval. For more on pipeline safety, visit pipesafety.org. A message from the Tennessee Gas Association, Tennessee Association of Broadcasters, and this station.
Robbie Stanley.
To avoid non-contact injuries and not repeat last year.
Joe Rexrode.
Just wait until next year's national TV schedule comes out.
Robbie and Rexrode. Mornings from 6 to 10 on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app. This is Chase, Willy, and D-Mase on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app.
Chase, Willy, and D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Appreciate Jill Jelnick for joining us. Coming up at 1 o'clock, we'll talk to author David Marinis, who's written a book about Jim Thorpe. Should be interesting. So we'll do that coming up in a few minutes. But first, let's hear a little bit from head coach Mike Vrabel earlier today.
Where did you guys see Inugo to bring him over here and add to that position?
Well, you get kind of in a pinch here when guys, start going down and, he's played in there. He's got a good, experience. I think that there's some physicality that shows up. He triggers in a run game. He's blitzed. So, those are all things that, as teams start to trend more towards, 11 personnel and playing with 3 wide receivers on the field, we have to make sure that we have enough of those guys that have played in there.
Mike, obviously Saturday's going to be the last chance for a lot of guys to make an impression on you and the staff to try to stay here. Do you enjoy seeing that effort from those guys in that last preseason game? I know you're obviously going to be busy handling stuff, but
no, I always enjoy. Yeah, of course, I want these guys that have started to improve and continue to improve over the course of our practices to go out there, and that's their opportunity to go play. We'll make corrections throughout the game, but that's the opportunity for some of these guys to go and be able to have all the hard work pay off and help themselves and give them the best chance of earning a spot here or somewhere else.
Come to balance one-on-ones. You mentioned to Dez, you've seen him try the same thing a lot of the time. How much would you like to see some variety from him, and can he help himself there?
Yeah, I was just trying to find a way to win in the open field.
The veteran safeties that you've added, Culver, Lonnie Johnson, Gillespie, what is behind kind of stockpiling so many veteran guys? What do you like in those guys?
Well, they've all played, and so again, we've had some guys go down. AJ's been unavailable, and we've seen flashes from each of those guys, and so we've had in a history of being here, for guys maybe not to stick somewhere else and come and find a role on our football team for whatever reason. So we'll give them every opportunity. We just focus on, we don't care how they get here. We just focus on what they do while they're here. And so, we coach them up and see who improves in our system, what contributions they can make, and help them to find a role for themselves on the team.
I guess this is the last official day of camp, and what changes maybe from a time standpoint, focus standpoint moving forward?
Well, I think we'll try to transition back to our regular season schedule, getting in here, meeting in the mornings, putting them through those meetings, starting a game plan, starting to do that, and then practice, around noon or whenever that may be, which is usually our in-season schedule, meet afterwards, and then get them out.
Stuff for Saturday or already?
It's a little bit of both.
Numbers, results, or anything? What have you seen Malik improve on over the last 2.5 weeks or so? Now that he's got a couple of games under his belt.
Well, we talked about, there was times that, we never want him to be a sitting duck, but there's also a progression. I've seen him work through his progression. I've seen him improve his timing. And then I've seen him, being able to slide up in the pocket. He hit Hassan when he slid up, and then he slid up and was able to attack the defense. And that's where you can make a lot of damage, in this league. And then if you go out, the back of the pocket, using numerous quarterbacks as an example, but Josh Allen's made a living, going out and making plays out of the pocket. and throwing the ball downfield and keeping his eyes downfield. But there's also a time to get in and break it down to defense and then make sure that you're, protecting yourself and the equipment.
How much is his footwork and throwing motion improved over the course of this camp from going back to when you first drafted?
It's just a daily progression. It's all the individual drills that sometimes you see, it carry over and look just like, we want it to look and he wants it to look. And there's other times where, some of those movements probably may force an errant throw, a high ball, one that, lands short, and then the accuracy. So there's been a lot of improvement, and we just are going to keep working and, excited for him on Saturday as well.
In the hurricane situation that Nick made the catch, he sprinted the ball back out. Then he and Robert were talking with the officials. What's the situation there in terms of saving time versus a K-ball doesn't come into the game?
K-ball does not. When you're kicking a field goal and the clock's running inside of, 2 minutes, they're not going to K-ball it. They're not going to come in there because, God love these guys, but they officiate for a reason. So the ball gets dropped, and then they have to stop it. And the last thing that anybody wants is them stopping the clock in that situation to give one team an advantage or the other. So those are all things that we're working, and I had a conversation with the officials here. This is the situation that we're in. They would only ask for a new ball, if the clock is stopped. It's hot out, and sometimes the ball gets sweaty, so we changed the ball when it was, the clock was stopped. But in that situation with the clock running, they're going to use that ball that, was in play.
Willis, with that mobility, or even with Tannehill for that matter, to be able to extend and go off schedule, you like to work on situations. Do you have to spend a lot of time just making sure that, that is an organized thing that they do?
There's part of that, and that was something that, really Cliff wanted to make sure that was going to happen, even in just 7-on-7, that, they're going to probably extend some plays, and, it was good. Kyler extended a play, got out of the pocket. We got 2 guys out of the back of the end zone, which I could show the team, that's exactly what we want to do when a quarterback's out of the pocket. There's no illegal contact. And we have to do more of that. We've got to build more of that in so that our defense can match. If we're in zone, we're going to have to match guys that are in our zone, plaster. Receivers are going to have to show up where, the quarterback and our offense or whatever the plan is, you got guys showing up in different spots based on where the quarterback moves. So that's all good work. And sometimes, if you're not getting enough of it, you can kind of build it in there and say, hey, Ryan, go 1-2 and then, go get on the move, or any of the other quarterbacks.
There you go, Titans head coach Mike Vrabel after practice today. It is weird to think that this is the last day of training camp, and as he said, they'll move into more of a regular season type schedule starting next week after the third and final preseason game Saturday night against Arizona at Nissan Stadium. Coming up next, we'll shift gears a little bit, talk to author David Marinis, who has written a book on Jim Thorpe. We'll do that coming up here on 102.5, 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Your speaker at home is so smart that even Alexa knows where to find Nashville's best sports talk.
102.5 The Game is Nashville's best sports talk.
Ask Alexa to enable 102.5 The Game. Once enabled, ask Alexa to play 102.5 The Game.
Welcome to 102.5 The Game.
We are Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
Hey, it's Mike from Newton Ford South. We all know that you're not supposed to wear white after Labor Day. So with that in mind, we're discounting all of our white vehicles. Well, maybe we should just discount the lighter colors that are close to white too, and maybe the red and blue ones since we celebrate this in America. Okay, fine. I'll discount all the cars, starting right now. On top of that, we want to celebrate all of your hard work with the most American lunch we can think of. Hot dogs. Hot dogs all day on Labor Day. So come kick your feet up, get a new car of any color, and enjoy a hot dog. You can even shop online for a new car with Newton Fast Pass. But you'll have to make your own hot dogs that way. Sorry. Visit NewtonFordSouth.com to learn more.
I had low back pain that was due to herniated discs.
Meet Dr. Justin Garzone, another satisfied patient who found regenerative medicine at QC Kinetics.
Over a very short period of time, the pain went away completely, and I have had absolutely no symptoms or pain since my treatment.
Before Dr. Garzone found QC Kinetics, he was looking at all the old school pain treatments.
It was recommended that I have steroid injections done, but then unfortunately my insurance company said that I would have to do 3 months of physical therapy first, and I needed to get better quickly.
With QC Kinetics, the doctor got lasting relief with no downtime.
I didn't have to take any medications during my treatment. I avoided surgery, and I am now pain-free.
Don't live with chronic pain, and don't go under the knife. Call QC Kinetics, the nation's leader in regenerative medicine, for a free consultation.
Call QC Kinetics, 615-249-4024. That's 615-249-4024. 615-249-4024.
The Nashville Sheriff is hiring correctional officers. Earn $52,500 after paid training and probation. Positions are available immediately. You must be 21 and over with a high school diploma or GED. Come join our family. That's $52,500 with great benefits. Apply now at sheriff.nashville.gov/apply or call 615-862-8170. Earn $52,500. Stop searching. Apply now. The Nashville Sheriff.
Your company's hiring. Who isn't? We would love to show you how to use 1025 The Game to attract and retain employees. We can also help you find the exact person you're looking for with a targeted digital campaign. You can trust our team to help you build your team. Email us at together@cromwellmedia.com.
From the Hillside Medical Game Studios, WPRT-FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne, Nashville's exclusive home for the Nashville Predators. 102.5 and 106.3.
Terang, it's a high fly ball.
We got pass rushers.
Awesome game.
Checkered flag in the air.
The Game.
A Cromwell Media Station.
Now let's see if we can bring them to life, all right?
Bringing you entertainment and informative sports talk during your workday.
Smart, funny, classy, and I like him a lot.
This is Chase, Willy, and D-Mase with Chase McCabe, Willy Donick,
Mason, touchdown, Tennessee,
and former NFL wide receiver Derek Mason on Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game, and on the Game Nashville app.
This is a new level of geek you got going on here.
1 o'clock hour, Chase, Willy, and D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Chase McCabe, Willy Donick, Derek Mason here with you. We say hello to David Marinus, who joins us now, the author of Path Lit by Lightning, a biography of Jim Thorpe, which is currently number 2 on the New York Times bestsellers list right now. David, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm in Nashville with my Andrew and family, so I couldn't be better.
Well, very cool. I know you're doing a book tour today, and you'll be at Parnassus Books in Green Hills tonight at 6:30 as a part of this book tour. This is the This is the 13th book that you've written, but why did you feel compelled to write a biography on the great Jim Thorpe?
You know, I have written 13 books, but I consider 3 of them sort of a trilogy of my sports biographies. The first being Vince Lombardi, the second Roberto Clemente, and now Thorpe. And in all 3 cases, there are sort of 2 things that I'm looking for. First of all, just a great dramatic story about a tremendous sports figure. But secondly, a way to use that story to illuminate larger issues about American history and sociology. So for Lombardi, it was not just about the great Packer coach, but also about leadership and the mythology of competition and success in American life and what it takes and what it costs. For Clemente, it was not just this beautiful ball player, but also that rare athlete who actually was heroic. You know, so many are called heroes, and Clemente really was, living out his life and dying trying to deliver humanitarian aid to Nicaragua after an earthquake. And so now comes Jim Thorpe, who is, you know, one of the great all-around athletes of in world history, but also a chance for me to write about the Native American experience. He was from the Sac and Fox Nation in Oklahoma, and what he endured during his life sort of was emblematic of what American Indians have gone through.
So, Path Lit by Lightning, again, is the name of the book, and we're talking to David Marinus, who is the author. I think what's interesting in kind of reading about this is, he's an Olympic gold medalist and everything he did as a two-sport athlete. But you talked about, some of the things in his life and how he had a troubled life. What were some of the things that you kind of discovered as you were doing the research for this?
He was more than a two-star athlete. He was 3- and 4-star. I mean, he played Major League Baseball, professional football, All-American, and a track star. But you're right. He did struggle later in his life, as many former athletes do. He had difficulty with alcohol, but I would say that the largest critical moment of his life was when his gold medals were rescinded because he had played Bush League Baseball in the Eastern Carolina League for 2 summers at a time when hundreds of college athletes were playing summer baseball, but most of them were doing it under aliases. Dwight Eisenhower played under the name Wilson in the Kansas State League. Jim Thorpe played under the name Jim Thorpe. And it was no secret what he was doing because so many other people were doing it. So, why did he lose his amateur status and his gold medals? I think a lot of it had to do with racism.
Now, did you, while writing this book, because this is a guy in Jim Thorpe that excelled at just about everything he did in regards to sports. He even, jumped into the coaching ring as well. He was
even a great ballroom dancer, Derek.
Exactly. So there was nothing he couldn't do.
Nope.
But why did he choose one sport over the other? It seems like, people know him more so for his football prowess than anything else.
Well, he first played Major League Baseball because he could, it was a bigger sport in that era than pro football. He went into pro football in 1915 with the Canton Bulldogs, and it was by far his best sport. I mean, he was a brilliant all-around football player in an era when the players played 60 minutes. They played offense and defense. He was a great left halfback, but the college football award for the best defensive back is the Jim Thorpe Award because he also was a defensive back. Not only that, he was a great punter. He routinely punted the ball 70 and 80 yards, and he was a great place kicker and drop kicker. He won many games with his foot, with field goals and drop kick field goals. So, I think that the reason that he concentrated on football later is because he was just the best in the world at it.
Now, when we think of Jim Thorpe, and obviously the Defensive Back Award is named after him, but then when we start naming great defensive backs, he never truly comes up in the picture in regards to, this guy has a award named after him, but then once we start talking about defensive back, he never come up in the picture a lot of times.
You're right, but think about it. I mean, he played 110 years ago.
Yeah, you're right.
It was before television, so, nobody really got to – I mean, unless you were at the games, you never got to see him play. And, there's no real video or film of him. So, you can only go by – I can only go by all of the accounts that I found in the newspapers of that era, which were extensive. But I think that it just has to do with time more than anything else. I mean, even Michael Jordan, gets superseded by kids who, he was before their time now, so that happens to every athlete, but think about 110 years and you can understand why that's the case.
Now, was that sort of the difficulty in writing this book? Because when you have written about other athletes, it was more so you had video to sort of watch and people knew of these names. But when you go back to Jim Thorpe, you didn't have a lot of these things that you would have of these athletes nowadays, whether it's film, whether it's actual accounts of watching them play. So was that the difficult part about it?
Yeah, it's partly. I mean, the other books I could interview hundreds of people about, the character I was writing about, whether it's Clemente or Lombardi. I couldn't do that with Thorpe. But I do a lot of archival research and find primary documents from the time. So I went to 22 archives around the country to research this book, ranging from, the Avery Brundage Archive on the Olympics at the University of Illinois, to the Carlisle Indian Industrial School where Thorpe starred as a football and track star. And I could get enough information. It just had to do it in a slightly different way. And you're right, I couldn't watch film to do it, with one great exception. The International Olympic Committee hired a great documentarian to find all of the old newsreels of the 1912 Olympics and put them together into a sort of a silent film, but a really wonderful one that shows a lot of what happened at those Olympics in Stockholm. And even though I wasn't able to get to Stockholm because of COVID, I felt like I was there because of that documentary.
We're talking to David Marinus. He is the author of the book, Path Lit by Lightning. It is about the great Jim Thorpe. And just for context, for some people that are trying to place the name and remember everything about Jim Thorpe as we're going through it here, when ESPN did the Sports Century, and of course this has now been 20-some-odd years ago here, but Jim Thorpe was number 7 in that documentary series that they did. And a lot of people thought he might have even been higher. That was one of the things we debated at the time. But, David, I always remember the Carlisle Indian School. When you read about Jim Thorpe as a kid, you're like, Carlisle, it's not Notre Dame, it's not Alabama, all of these things. That Carlisle was beating all these teams, right? They were the best. But tell me about Carlisle. Tell me about Carlisle Indian School, because it's a unique situation, and the phrase "killed the Indian, saved the man." What did that mean?
Well, the school was founded in 1879, only 3 years after the Battle of Little Bighorn, Custer's last stand. And the first students were mostly Lakota Sioux from out there. And the effort was essentially to rid them of all of their Indianness, to take away their language, their religion, their culture, and acculturate and assimilate them into white society. That's what kill the Indian meant. And it was very dehumanizing. So by the time Thorpe got there in 1904 through 1912, that system was thoroughly in place. Most of the young Native Americans who went there didn't like it. They were running away all the time. Some adjusted and found it to be helpful. And, of course, Thorpe himself rose to world fame because of that school, despite its dehumanizing aspects. Nobody would know of Jim Thorpe if he hadn't been an All-American football player there, beating West Point and Harvard and Penn and all of the big schools of football of that era. Were no longer, but they were the big names then. And little Carlisle was always traveling on the road, and they would draw the biggest crowds and beat those big schools.
That is incredible. So this is a tough question to answer in a short period of time, and the book will shed a lot of light on this. But why do you think he struggled so much, given the fame that he had?
Well, first of all, money was very different then. The most he made was $300 a game playing football. Compare that with the people today, in all the sports, $240 million for a baseball player. So he always was struggling with money. He did suffer from alcoholism. That was definitely a problem for him. But so in some ways, the last 20 or 30 years of his life after his athletic fame were somewhat difficult, but he never gave up. He kept finding new jobs. At one point, he was digging ditches in Los Angeles. At another point, he was on the fringes of the Hollywood studio system and acting as an extra in about 70 movies. At age 45, he played traveling baseball and still was pretty good with Harjo's Indians, playing against all the great Negro League teams, Satchel Paige and Josh Gibson. He just kept working at it. So in one sense, you could think of it as a tragedy, but I think of it more as an act of survival and perseverance.
Well, David, appreciate you so much for coming on today to talk about this. A Path Lit by Lightning, number 2 on the New York Times bestseller list about Jim Thorpe. And again, tonight at 6:30 at Parnassus Books in Green Hills, you'll be there doing a speaking and doing a book signing. So very much appreciate it, and best of luck.
Sure, not just doing that, but I'll be interviewed by my son Andrew. So I'm really
very
looking forward to it.
Oh, this is going to be good.
Awesome. Okay, guys.
Thanks, David.
Thank you.
David Marinus, the author of Path Lit by Lightning, a bio of Jim Thorpe.
Man, that book is going to be really interesting because, like he said, you didn't have any film. you really don't have a lot of people that you can talk to that were actually living when he was. I mean, I don't think you had anybody to talk to that was actually living when he was playing. So that I can see that being one of the hardest, most difficult books for him to write.
Absolutely. And just think about Jim Thorpe, as Chase was pointing out there. Major League Baseball, decathlon winner, Pro Football Hall of Fame. So that's, decathlon, you could argue, is more than one sport. Right?
Yeah,
that's more than one sport all wrapped up into one. But they used to say when I was growing up that the greatest athlete in the world was the decathlon champion, right? That's kind of what it was, because that's what that whole thing is designed to do, is who's the best all-around athlete, the 10 different events, the 10 different skills, running for speed, running for distance, the javelin. So he's the best in the world at that. He's a Pro Football Hall of Fame and good enough to be Major League Baseball. But he's not revered in the same way as a Babe Ruth or some of the other people that are sort of from that era there. So I think anything that sheds light on his life and kind of brings to light just how great he was is a really good thing.
We'll have your opportunity to win Panic at the Disco tickets with our Titans trivia question, as we've done every day. So be sure to listen to that coming up at the bottom of the hour. But coming up next, we talked about this earlier, the progression of Ryan Tannehill by the numbers. We'll get back into that as you listen to Chase, Willy, and D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Every Wednesday at 2:45.
Sanders for the touchdown, 48 yards.
Former NFL wide receiver Chris Sanders joins Stillman and Company to give his thoughts on all things Titans and NFL. Fueled by Parman Energy, now hiring fuel drivers. Apply now at ParmanEnergy.com on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
This is a relationship, just like your relationship. Dating and getting married is awesome and fun, but having been married for 24 years, I can tell you it only gets better.
Meet Ward Herbert, manager at Genesis Diamonds, talking about the importance of having a long-term marriage with your spouse and your jeweler.
What's in the DNA here is relationship building. How can we be a part of your love story forever? It's your engagement ring, it's your wedding band, it's your anniversaries, it's gifts for your children, it's being a Genesis customer for life.
Genesis Diamonds, where it's never about making a sale, it's about making a hero.
The greatest joy I get is helping you find your perfect ring, helping you find your perfect diamond, and having you walk out with a huge smile on your face because you know she's going to love it and it's going to be something you can be proud of forever.
And Ward knows a thing or two about relationships as a marriage counselor and an ordained minister. He can provide a little extra added value.
I did a wedding ceremony for one of our customers 2 months ago. He did not have a minister at the last minute, and I performed his wedding ceremony for him.
Genesis Diamonds, going above and beyond for every customer.
Now you may kiss the bride.
Green Hills and Cool Springs.
Celebrate back-to-school season with Hiller. This month only, get free backyard upgrades when you replace essential home systems like a free Traeger grill with a new whole home generator or a free Yeti cooler with a new tankless water heater. And Hiller's keeping you cool for back-to-school with zero-interest financing for up to 12 months on select new HVAC systems. Visit happyhiller.com. Happy you'll be, or the service is free.
Call the Happy Face Truck today.
Hey, Robbie Stanley here, and FanDuel wants you to be ready for game day when college football kicks off this week. Right now, new customers can get $150 in free bets guaranteed for week one. Just place a $5 bet, and you can get $150 in free bets, win or lose. Lots of interesting college football props out there. I'm looking at the Vols over 7.5 wins this year, but you take it any way you want to take it. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, now's the perfect time to give it a shot. The app is easy to use, and they're always hooking you up with great odds as well. So see for yourself why FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. Download the FanDuel app today, sign up with promo code ROB, and place a $5 bet to get $150 in free bets guaranteed to kick off the college football season. Once again, that promo code is ROB. You must be 21 or older and present in Tennessee. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued is non-withdrawable free bets that expire 14 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Got a gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line at 1-800-889-9789.
Looking for a career with purpose or have that passion for youth development? Boys and Girls Clubs of Middle Tennessee provides a safe place where youth gain the tools to learn, lead, and reach their full potential. And that starts with you, offering competitive pay and free after-school care for employees. Learn more at bgcmt.org.
Listen to Stillman and Company with me, Caroline Fenton, all season long on ESPN 102.5 The Game for your chance to win Nashville Sounds tickets, courtesy of 312 Pizza Company in Germantown.
We want to hear from you.
Thanks for taking the call.
Join the conversation. Call or text at 615-737-1025. Driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com.
I'm ready to step this up a notch.
You're listening to Chase, Willy, and D-Mase on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and on the Game Nashville app.
Tune in for Nashville Sounds Baseball tonight at 5:35 on 94.9 The Fan. The Sounds are on the road taking on the Durham Bulls, AAA affiliate of the Tampa Bay Rays. Sounds Baseball on 94.9 The Fan is presented by 312 Pizza and Farm Bureau Health Plans. Welcome back in. Chase, Willy, and D-Mace here on 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Chase McCabe, Willie Donick, Derek Mason here with you. You can always contact us at 615-737-1025, our phone line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Something that we discussed earlier today was kind of the progression of Ryan Tannehill. And Willie, who is our numbers guy here on the show, had done a deep dive into some of the underlying numbers with Ryan Tannehill and what that could mean moving forward with this year. And one thing that was encouraging out of practice today was Derrick Henry was on the field during team period. You saw the effectiveness of having him on the field and how play action came into play as well.
No question. We're trying to figure out, what's a reasonable expectation for Ryan Tannehill. We've talked so much about what has not gone right in that Bengals game in particular, and broadening it a little bit. The last two playoff games, home playoff losses, disappointing. And so it's sort of, it's put a stigma on Ryan Tannehill's run as the Titans quarterback. But I just tried to look at it from a historical perspective, too. For about a decade, the team had been pretty insignificant. You had the one little blip where Marcus Mariota and the Titans made it to the playoffs and upset the Chiefs. Remember when Mike Mularkey was still the coach. Other than that, the team had not had hardly any success. So the success that Ryan Tannehill has had, I think, gets overlooked sometimes. 30-13 as a starter. That's the fifth best winning percentage of any quarterback. The four that are ahead of him, elite guys. Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, and some guy named Tom Brady. Those are the only four guys that have better winning percentages as a starter. 76 touchdown passes, 27 interceptions. This is since he took over as the starting quarterback for the Titans. Of course, 14 of the 27 interceptions took place last year, so that's the troublesome part. There was regression last year, as we all know, so what will that mean going to this year? But again, 76 to 27, pretty darn good ratio. Add in 18 rushing touchdowns, which is third in the league among quarterbacks. Only Josh Allen and Kyler Murray have more rushing touchdowns than Ryan Tannehill since 2019. And then it's a very efficient running attack that he has as well. The way he runs is very effective. He doesn't pile up huge amounts of yards, 754 to be exact, but 65% of the runs that he has had have resulted in a first down. That is by far the highest percentage of any quarterback. No quarterback in the league is more than 50%. He's at 65%. So think about how effectively he runs the ball when he does run it. And I'll notate, too, down around the goal line. He's really good at running the ball there. Also, this may be something you have overlooked. He's second in the NFL since 2019 with 13 game-winning drives. And he's got 10 fourth-quarter comebacks in there as well. So the Titans play a lot of close games. It's no secret, so he's in that position a lot. But you got to give him a lot of credit. He's gotten the team down there and gotten it done more often than not. They're 13-4 in games decided by 7 points or less. And so that's really the double-edged sword. These are all the things that he does do really well. And then with the regression last year in the overall offense, can they win those close games again? Can he bounce back and have a season that looks more statistically like his 2020 season, which was his career year? Can it be between that and last year, where there was some fall off with all the offensive line, the pass protection issues, the issues with keeping A.J. Brown and Julio Jones on the field? A lot went wrong. And so I thought he probably didn't get enough credit for kind of holding it together with all the things that happened last year with the offense and still getting them to 12-5. But I think he's going to have to be better this year for them to sustain that level of success.
Well, I think he's going to have to be better because the conference as a whole has gotten better. I think the AFC South has gotten better, even though we still believe it's a two-team race. But Jacksonville's gotten better, and we don't know with Houston. But, when you add a third team to the mix, it makes it a little bit more hairy in regards to winning the division. But, yeah, he's done just about everything that the Titans have asked him to do or hoped he would do when they brought him here in a trade with the Miami Dolphins. And I think the reason why there's this apprehension on, saying, hey, he is the guy is because of, one, what we last saw from him, and then two, I think people look at it as, a lot of his success comes from Derrick Henry.
Sure, no question about it.
And rightfully so. I'm pretty sure that if you asked, Ryan Tannehill, he would say, listen, because of the way Derrick Henry can run the football, that allows me to do some things in the passing game that we probably wouldn't been able to do if Derrick wasn't our running back. So I think that's why people are still a little apprehensive on just, all out being in love with Ryan Tannehill. They love some of the things that he does, the fourth quarter comebacks, the turnover ratio, touchdown to turnover ratio. They love that in the leadership, but it's just like when he has an opportunity to advance us at the most critical time, he has not been able to do it.
One thing I'm curious of, we keep harping on Derrick Henry being back on the field, which is obviously going to be huge, for him, and he's going to get, he's going to be the bulk of the offense. But I feel like this is really the first time that Ryan Tannehill can say since he's been here that he has some viable other options at running back, including Dontrell Hilliard, that can kind of be that change of pace guy to use him a little bit more. Now we've seen Derrick get better at that. He's, I guess, considered a two-down back, but he's got more versatility that we've seen in the last few years. But how do you guys think Tannehill can benefit from that of knowing that you have Derrick, but you have Hilliard and even Hassan Haskins to an extent as well?
I think that's a big question this year is the usage of Derrick Henry. Will there be more of a rotation? Will they try to manage the workload a little bit different with Derrick Henry? Or can they afford to do that? Last year there was a point where even if they wanted to manage the carries, they had to lean on him so much because they had so many other issues, and he put the team on his back before he got hurt for sure. The other thing I want to throw out there about Tannehill, because you've said it, Derek, the expectation now is to win in the playoffs. It's to get to a Super Bowl while you've got a special player like Henry, while you've got the ducks in a row a little bit. It took a long time to get to the point. All the 9-7s, all of the horrible seasons before the 9-7s. There was a point in time 9-7 looked great compared to 2-14, and then here they are. Double-digit wins the last 2 years, division championships, but everybody's so hungry. But Ryan Tannehill, I would still make the argument, has exceeded the expectations that everybody had for him when they traded for him. That wasn't a big headline story when they traded for Ryan Tannehill. It's not like the day they traded for him, everyone was like, yep, he's going to succeed Marcus Mariota. There was still that, this is insurance in case Mariota doesn't do it. It's an option. It's a filler. They'll have to go out and get another quarterback. Did you guys think he would do this? I just gave you the numbers of Tannehill. Did you guys have any notion that he would be able to play at that level when they traded for him?
No. I mean, they traded for him to be an insurance policy. That's how and the backup.
But it's funny how the expectation level has changed now. Now it's like, hey, I gotta have this guy get it done and get me to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and look, we'll see exactly how far he can get them. But I'm kind of with Derek, who said it earlier, that the AFC Championship, it kind of feels like that's got to be the goal with this team. Coming up next, Willy will have his 3 fantasy football questions of the day, plus Titans trivia to win Panic at the Disco tickets. That is all next here, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Hey, I'm Matthias Ekholm, and this is Smashville.
Ekholm, his shot, he scores! Matthias Ekholm gets the Predators' third of the night.
You're listening to the flagship of the Nashville Predators radio network, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Lauren and Tony Dungy present Uncommon Influence, Saying Yes to a Purposeful Life book launch event, August 26th at Bethel World Outreach Church in Brentwood. NFL Hall of Famer and Super Bowl winning coach Tony Dungy with a special performance by CeCe Winans, along with a conversation with Jimmy Miato, President and CEO of Compassion International. Don't miss Lauren and Tony Dungy, along with CeCe Winans for the Uncommon Influence launch event, August 26th at Bethel World Outreach Church in Brentwood. For tickets, visit transparentproductions.com.
Now's the time to make a message known. All working-class Tennesseans vote no on Amendment 1 this voting season. Right to work does not belong in the state constitution. Hardworking families deserve to have their needs addressed in today's economy. Visit TennesseeWorkerAlliance.org, paid for by the Nashville Building Trades.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter.com/radio.
If you missed the latest on Chase, Willy, and D-Mase.
I love their depth on the defensive line. I was thinking that tough watching the game on Saturday. There's some guys that weren't playing. Obviously, Simmons didn't play. But the guys that they have in the interior of that defensive line are pretty solid. You know, I think I like their options.
All right, we have a nickname, a vote for a nickname for Kyle Phillips.
Okay.
Wes in Clarksville on our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Mr. Cash. Kyle Phillips, but Cash with a K.
Oh.
Mr. Cash.
Is there something there that I'm not like?
I don't know.
What does that mean?
He cash. He money. He's going to catch the ball. Come on, Willie. You don't get that. You don't get that.
Well, I know, but is there something with his name that we're playing off?
Kyle K.
Kyle with a K.
With a K. Cash with a K instead of a C.
Chase, Willy, and D-Mase. Weekdays from 10 to 2 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and on the Game Nashville app.
Robbie and Rex Road here on ESPN.
Welcome into Chase, Willy, and D-Mace.
Somebody company is delivered.
There's a new way to hear 102.5 The Game. Nashville's best sports talk on 106.3 FM. From downtown Nashville to Spring Hill on I-65 and to Murfreesboro on I-24. You now have 2 choices to hear our great sports programming. Get the extra point, no problem. And the Nashville Predators. Scores! Check out 106.3 now and save it as a preset.
Hey Nashville, I'm Gary Smith, head coach of Nashville SC. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 The Game.
Chase, Willy, and D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, streaming on the Game Nashville app. Hope you're having a great Thursday. This week's Nashville Best Deal is from Seafood Sensation. Seafood Sensation is a lively restaurant in the heart of Nashville that uses the best ingredients and provides a great atmosphere. Get half off a $25 gift card at thegamenashville.com/deals while supplies last. Chase McKay, Willie Donick, Derek Mason with you. It's time for your chance to win a pair of tickets to see Panic at the Disco at Bridgestone Arena on Saturday, October 8th. But you must answer this trivia question correctly.
Is today off the air? Is that how we're doing it?
Yeah, we'll do off the air.
And remember this, because we get somebody that every day tries to text the answer in. It's only for phone callers. And I know that bugs some people, but that's the way we roll, man. That's how we're doing it. Got to call in. 737-1025. Got looking down memory lane a little bit today and started thinking about Chris Johnson, CJ2K.
CJ.
And, it's so – we were talking a lot about Derrick Henry today. He's ramping things up at practice. He's starting to do more. What's he going to be this year? CJ 2K, of course, had the 2K season, just his second year in the league at age 24. And he had 6 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons for the Titans, but it just was never quite the same after the 2000 season. Of course, in 2008, his rookie year, he had a phenomenal year sharing some time with Lindale White.
Smash and dash.
The smash and dash. But a few years later, he was gone. The question today, give me the 2 other NFL teams that CJ played for.
Ooh.
Chris Johnson. Give me the 2 other teams that Chris Johnson played for in the NFL post-Titans. 615-737-1025.
Okay.
I got one of them. I know one of them.
I think I know them both.
I don't know them both. I know one.
The question is, does Nick know?
Yes.
Yes, I actually do know.
Okay, good.
Prior to him giving me that, yes.
Okay, good.
He would have gotten that.
Good.
And let me say, at the trivia night, the youngsters, the not-so-rookies, they call themselves the not-so-rookies, the young team representing 1025, Michelle Knezovic, Nick Keyser, and their significant others, they did well. You guys were a top 10
Yeah,
finisher,
I think
right?
at one point we were in second place, Willie.
Yeah. See, he's no slouch back there.
I like it.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to our fantasy football questions of the day.
Fantasy football questions today. Here's one philosophical one to start you guys off, okay? I was thinking this. Why don't we play more leagues where you play 2 quarterbacks? Have you guys ever played in a fantasy football league where you play 2 quarterbacks?
Yeah, I like it.
I've
so
never
it's like the
played in
super
one.
flex is what
I've
you
never
call
played
it.
in one.
Is that what you call leagues like that?
Yeah, basically it's like you have a super flex that you can put whatever it doesn't matter the position. You can put them in your flex spot.
But then the quarterback becomes more of a premium, right?
Sure.
Because you get to play 2 in 1 week.
So, I was talking about my experience playing fantasy since the mid-'80s, and back when we had just a spiral notebook. You write everybody's lineup
As
down.
you have one now.
You take the newspaper on Monday, and you go through everybody's stats, and you scribble them down, and you add up the points. It was much more simple, and you just played one quarterback. Now we have all of these websites and things like that. The quarterback is so essential to the way the game is played. It hasn't really translated that much to fantasy leagues. I'm just wondering if that's going to trend forward.
The 2 quarterback deal?
2 quarterback systems in fantasy football leagues. I may have done one once. I just don't think I've played in a million leagues. I don't think I've done more than 1 or 2 ever with 2 quarterbacks. Is that something that more leagues should look at, I wonder?
I think it's cool. I mean, I like it.
I guess if it brings more excitement, then yes.
Sure.
Well, that's what I'm asking. I guess, would it be more exciting, or would it be that too much of a pain to find 2 quarterbacks?
I don't think it'd be a pain to
with the injuries that
find
happen
2
over the
quarterbacks.
season. I'm curious if people want to text in our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. If you have experience with a 2 quarterback fantasy league, what has that been like? And do you like it? Do you prefer it? Or do you go with the traditional one? Because I think I'm presuming I'm not going to play in a 2 quarterback league this year, but it intrigues me a little bit.
And it's interesting because you're pretty traditionalist. Like you like kind of the traditional things, as has been noted on the show over
Well,
the
when it
years.
comes to baseball, especially.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But so you'd be open to it.
I would be open to it, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think it adds a different layer of strategy.
Yeah. Okay, so that's question 1. Just a little philosophical question for you. All right, here we go. A couple of matchups for you today. I took a couple of guys that are in the same kind of neighborhood in the average draft position, a lot of the mock drafts right now. I got 2 running backs for you. You pick who you'd rather have. Leonard Fournette, who we just saw come through here with the Buccaneers, and James Conner with the Arizona Cardinals, who had a really good year last year. We had him last year, Chase, if you remember. He hooked us up. And he was not a guy we drafted very high. So can he repeat that performance? Can Leonard Fournette still get it done at this stage of his career for the Buccaneers? Those 2 are on the board. You get one of them. Who you choosing?
I don't know if Tampa's offensive line is going to be anything special.
They've had major issues there.
Yes, they've had some issues.
One guy out for the season, Ryan Stinney, who got hurt here in the Titans game, and the other kid who got hurt right at the beginning of training camp, they think he's out until December.
So, and Arizona doesn't seem like they have many, issues with their offensive line. So I'm going with Connor. They both rushed for around the same amount of yards last year. Now, Leonard Fournette averaged more yards per carry than Connor did, but I think because of their offensive line troubles, and he's not Derrick Henry, because I say offensive line troubles. We have offensive line troubles, but I just think Derrick Henry's just a different breed. But with offensive line troubles that Tampa has, I can't see picking Leonard Fournette. I don't think he is another 800 to 1,000-yard rusher.
Jace, you agree?
Yeah, I think I'm going Connor. He was good for us last year.
He was very good. But there seems to be a question of can he do it again? Because they still have, right, Chase Edmonds is the other guy, I think, and he was young. He was maybe more of the expected guy to get going. It just ended up being Connor a bit.
752 yards on 202 attempts, 15 touchdowns for
Connor.
That's the thing. And
he's got the receiving.
It's not like he really racked up tons of rushing yards, but it seemed like he went on a run last year where in the red zone he just was money, scoring touchdowns. Can you duplicate that?
He had almost 400 yards receiving with 3 touchdowns. So he's a dual threat guy. And I think last year was his first year in the system. I think they're going to get him. I'm not saying he's going to have 20 touchdowns, because I think that's what his total end up being. But he's still going to be in that range of, together receiving and rushing. 12 to 15 touchdowns.
So you guys like the production of Connor over Fournette?
Yeah, Junie on our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. I played in a 2 QB fantasy league one time. I went undefeated in the regular season, lost by 2 in the championship. I was distraught, and needless to say, I've never done the 2 QB league again.
Wow, Junie, he's still having nightmares about that.
Wow.
All right, real quick,
your response.
Your third question. We have a winner for our trivia question.
Okay, we have the winner of the trivia question. All right, same matchup, couple of wide receivers in the same neighborhood on the draft boards in average draft position. I got Keenan Allen of the Chargers, and I've got T. Higgins, Oak Ridge, Tennessee, for the Cincinnati Bengals. Who are you taking?
T. Higgins.
You like T.
love
Higgins?
T. Higgins. Oh, yeah.
I really
Keenan Allen, a little more the established guy, a little bit older. T. Higgins, the up-and-comer.
I do like T. Higgins.
I like him in that offense.
He's sort of the forgotten guy in that offense, but I really do like T. Higgins.
I mean, that's the thing with the Bengals. Burrow's got Jamar Chase, obviously, T. Higgins, and then Tyler Boyd.
He got some.
I mean, he's got some receivers.
He has some weapons. So, I mean, I guess T. Higgins.
You guys are going T. Higgins?
Yeah, I'm going T. Higgins.
I like T. Higgins.
Very interesting. Okay, answer to the trivia question. The 2 other teams that Chris Johnson played for after he left the Titans, after the 6 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons.
Derek.
One of them had 2,000 yards. Do you guys remember?
Yep, you give one.
I'm the Arizona Cardinals.
Arizona Cardinals is one. That's who we finished with. There was one team in between that I had forgotten when I looked at this.
The New York Jets.
The Jets.
What? Did he go to the Jets?
He left the Titans. He left the Titans for the Jets.
He left the Titans for the Jets.
So that's where everybody goes to just end their career.
You guys have that in common. You both played for the Jets, and nobody remembers it.
Exactly.
Except for me, because one day Derek walks in, he goes, "Chase, I got you something," and I'm like, "What's that, D-Mase?" He goes, "I'm going to give you one of my jerseys that I wore in a game," and I said, "Really? That's so cool." And I'm thinking like it's Ravens or Titans, and it's like, "Yeah, I'll sign it for you. It'll be cool." Freaking Jets jersey. I'm the only person in the world that has a Derek Mason number 85 Jets jersey. But you know what? It's proudly hanging in my closet.
What year was the Jets when you played? Do you remember what year it was?
That was 2010, 11.
Okay, so Chris Johnson, 2014 Jets.
Yeah.
663 yards, respectable, but he only started 6 of the 16 games, 155 carries. Went to Arizona the next year, 196 carries, 814 yards. So a couple of decent years post-Titans, but then kind of faded out.
Yeah.
Who's our winner, Nick? I can't, our screen's down, so I can't tell you.
Yeah, Sam Warren is our winner.
All right,
Big
Sam.
Congrats, Sam.
Panic at the Disco. No panic for Sam.
No, not at all. Coming up next, we'll put a bow on things, hit on a few other notes from Titans practice today. Stillman and Company coming up in about 15 minutes or so here on 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
If you're on the road between downtown Nashville,
They're still in good shape to make the playoffs.
and I-840,
Players make it clear they don't want to be somewhere anymore.
there's a new way to hear all your favorite shows and sports programming on 102.5 The Game.
And he has added players that do fit.
What I was worried about is that they were still just going to keep the goal.
It's 106.3 FM.
Think about all the good Titans teams.
This is very much so a run-first offense.
Now you have two choices to hear Nashville's best sports talk. Check out 106.3 now and add it as a favorite.
From the Fox 17 News Code Red Weather Center.
I'm Fox 17 Code Red meteorologist Greg Bovis, right near 90 degrees once again today. A few isolated showers or weak thunderstorms can't be ruled out. This afternoon through this evening, mainly south of I-40. All that action turns off as we get closer to sunset.
This weather report brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
Call the Happy Face Truck today.
Nothing makes one feel better than the ability to give to someone in need. Blood Assurance invites you to give the gift of life with a blood donation. Blood Assurance announces their partnership with Scott Hamilton's CARES Foundation, dedicated to changing the future of cancer by funding advanced, innovative cancer research. Now to the end of August, if you make a blood donation at any area Blood Assurance Center, they will donate $10 to the Scott Hamilton CARES Foundation. Give blood, give local, save lives with Blood Assurance.
Have you seen the selection of luxury pre-owned Rolex watches they now have at Genesis Diamonds? If not, prepare to be amazed.
If people really know the watch world, they come in and they're in shock. They're like, I cannot believe you have this selection here. They're able to see them, touch them, feel them.
Meet Genesis watch expert Charlie Rivers, who says over the past few years, Genesis buyers have scoured the world to build a collection of luxury pre-owned Rolexes, including all the hard-to-find models.
Daytonas, Pandas, Sky Dwellers, a huge selection of Submariners, Hulks, Kermits, anything that you could ever possibly want. We have every luxury pre-owned Rolex that we have here. We ensure that it's in pristine condition.
So come in today and find the timepiece of your dreams at Genesis. Or if you already own a Rolex and are looking to trade for a different model or even sell it, Genesis can help you get top dollar.
If you have a Rolex, definitely bring it in. I would love to see it and do a complimentary evaluation on it and see what we can do for you.
Genesis Diamonds, now with one of the largest selections of luxury pre-owned Rolexes in America. Green Hills and Cool Springs.
To all my men listeners out there, I need to tell you something about Cool Springs MD. Over the years, more men have started to seek help for hormone deficiencies and imbalances. And Dr. Jeffrey Lodge and his wife Daphne, along with their experienced staff, give men the treatment required to improve their quality of life. Cool Springs MD services have already helped many men of Brentwood, Nashville, and the surrounding areas in Tennessee with improving their immune systems, energy levels, cognitive functions, and more. They are there to connect you with the medical care you require to have a healthy and enriched life. There's no better time to achieve a healthy lifestyle. So, what are you waiting on, man? Give Dr. Jeffrey Lodge and Cool Springs MD a call today for an appointment at 615-486-3458. That's 615-486-3458, or visit their website, coolspringsmd.com.
Hi guys, it's Andrew. Are you struggling with erectile dysfunction? Well, today, Thursday, August 25th, we're running a never-before offered promotion you won't want to miss out on. Hillside Medical Clinic uses the most powerful form of wave therapy. 60 clinical studies show that it repairs blood vessels and finally treats the root cause problem of ED without any pills. If you're ready to regain your love life, grab your phone and call us now. You'll qualify for the assessment, the exam, even the blood flow ultrasound totally free. Plus a gift that can produce powerful results in the bedroom in minutes. That's worth the visit alone, guys. And today, Thursday only, we're offering our patients no payments on treatments for 2 years. You heard that right. Treat your ED now and enjoy the benefits, and don't pay a dime for 2 years. 615-576-5000. That's 615-576-5000. Guys, put a stop to your erectile dysfunction and get your love life back. Call Hillside Medical Clinic now to qualify. This offer ends today. 615-576-5000. Financing required, OAC.
Jared Stillman.
If you get 3 games where he doesn't turn the ball over, you're going to the Super Bowl.
Caroline Fenton.
I don't know if he would be open to joining another team.
Stillman and Company. Afternoons from 2 to 6.
Presented by TriStar Moving.
On Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN.
102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app. This is Chase, Willy, and D-Mase on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app.
Back here, Chase, Willy, and D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Little Major League theme as Rick Wild Thing Vaughn comes in to close it out.
By the way, I was very disappointed.
I'm mad at myself.
What the heck happened to you guys last night?
I know.
I was criticized.
Eddie Harris.
I was criticized by a lot of the players at Trivia Night last night for Stars over at Boom Baz. I asked the question. There was a Major League question on our initial thing, and it had to do with Wild Thing Vaughn. I was like, you know what? Let's go next level, and let's have the people who really love that movie benefit from just knowing the next level. And so I asked in that last game where, remember, Lou Brown, the manager, goes up to Rick Vaughn and says, I'm going to pass you up. I know it's your turn in the rotation, but you haven't done well against the Yankees. I want you to be ready to go, but I'm going to go with Eddie Harris.
Yep.
I asked the question of the name of Eddie Harris's character.
It was only one team that got the answer.
I think it was. And Nick got it, right? And as I was going to say, Nick better have got it. But I think there might have been 1 or 2 other teams that got it.
Yeah.
25 teams. I was stunned. I thought at least 8 or 9 would get that. I knew not everybody would get it, but some people were looking at me going, what the heck?
What are you talking about?
But I do love that scene in the movie where Lou comes out and he says, "Give me Vaughn."
Yeah.
And everybody kind of looks at him like, Vaughn. And
Yeah.
that's the moment where I'm blanking on his name, the second baseman or third baseman,
Roger Dorn.
Dorn, comes over and
there's issues there.
Yeah. Strike this, what out. Great scene in the movie. But yeah, I was disappointed in myself that I did not get that.
I cannot believe you guys didn't get that question right.
Couple of news and notes. Phil Kessel signing with the Vegas Golden Knights, 1 year, $1.5 million. I don't know how Vegas has room for that in the salary cap, but
how do they have room for anybody?
They've taken out a loan at a casino, I guess, but they made it work. And I mean, player-wise, I don't think that's a bad fit for him. I mean, I know there were rumors of. I mean, there's been rumors for 10 years on him coming to the Nashville Predators, and it just never happened. But
yeah, way back when he was a young player playing with the Bruins. The Bruins had an issue where they had, too many guys same position. They dangled him. They basically said, we're trading him. And the Predators were very interested, but it was more of a sign-and-trade kind of thing. You knew you were going to sign him to a new contract, and the Maple Leafs just outbid the Predators, who still weren't financially where they are today, and they were able to make that work when Kessel was a very young player. And here's Kessel all these years later, never misses a game. His production is down a little bit, but he's been playing with a bad team in the Coyotes. So with Vegas, you never know. They're hoping he's the right guy to go around the high-end talent they have at the top of their lineup, but they're top-heavy with their roster right now. They've got all kinds of salary cap problems, as we said. The Robin Lehner injury that they've now, deemed he's out for the season, that gave them the salary cap room because they could put him on long-term IR. But now it's like, who's going to be your goalie? You've got Thompson, who played late in the season, Logan Thompson, and who else? Mm-hmm. It's kind of a big question mark for them.
It's Laurent Brossoit and Logan Thompson are going to be the tandem.
Brossoit, he's been hurt too. That was the other thing. That's why Thompson had to come in there last year. So 2 unproven guys for sure.
Also, Little League World Series, the Nolensville team, tough one yesterday, losing 13-0 to Hawaii. Hawaii just really, really talented team. So they will turn around. Nolensville will play tonight against who they got tonight?
Texas. That was the game that was going on while we had our trivia bowl going. They won a good game against Pennsylvania. And Derek, when you and I were talking to the guys from the team, the young shortstop, William Satinoff, and his dad, Evan, who's the coach, they both knew that it was going to be tough against Hawaii. And that's what happened yesterday.
It was more than tough.
They came out early and just
wasn't it a grand
it.
slam early?
Yeah, I think 5 in the first and went on and won it. So Hawaii, I think there's been a sense they've been the most talented team so far.
Well, who do they have today?
Well, so Nolensville's got to beat Texas. If they can beat Texas, they will go back and play in the U.S. final, which would be a great achievement. Make it to the U.S. final. So this is a big game tonight. It's at 6 o'clock on ESPN, and so we wish them the best. And who knows? Get another crack at Hawaii. Never know what can happen there.
And then in the major leagues, the Braves that are catching up to your Mets, they're off tonight. They'll open their series at St. Louis tomorrow. They've won 8 of their last 10. The Mets, only 4-6 in their last 10, have lost 2 in a row. We'll play the Colorado Rockies tonight.
They've got Jacob deGrom going tonight, trying to get the lead back to 2 with the Braves off. I saw this, Chase, about the Braves. Remember, they had a slow start. For a while, I was kind of looking at it. The Mets built a 10-game lead. And I remember kind of ribbing Chase, going, Chase, what's going on with you guys? And I shouldn't have said anything because they are 54-21 in the last 75 games. 7 of the 14 losses are to the Mets. So the bottom line is the Braves are just absolutely cleaning up against the middle to below average teams. I mean, they literally don't lose a game. That's an incredible winning percentage down the stretch.
And can you believe this stat? In the history of baseball, yesterday was the first time that the Braves swept the Pirates in a series, in the season series.
Yeah, the Pirates have been around for a while.
I know, and so have the Braves.
So have the Braves.
Yeah, but think about
that. The first time they swept them.
Yes.
The season series sweep. That is hard to do.
Yeah. So pretty amazing.
You mentioned this, Chase. Baseball came out with the new schedule. They're going to change how they do it. Less games against your division, more interleague games. This is where you guys always have been on me about being too traditionalist. I've never been a huge fan of interleague play. I guess the balance of the schedule is good. Everybody plays the same schedule now, which is fair. But I'm not sure I like the idea of, if you're a Mets fan, you have games against the Twins and the Indians. I mean, it's
the NHL
it's
model.
a give and take. Yeah, it's an NHL model. That's what it is.
Which I love it in the NHL. I love that you can see everybody. So I don't know. I'm willing to give it a shot.
Non-traditional.
I know.
But okay. All right. Okay.
I'm willing to give it a shot.
I'm going to bend. I'm going to go with the times.
Got to change sometimes.
You mentioned the races and how close they are. Tampa leads the Angels 5-1 right now. St. Louis over the Cubs 3-0. That's significant because Tampa, they're 7.5 back of the Yankees. Don't think they're going to catch the Yankees. The Yankees were struggling there for a while but have won 3 in a row, so still have control in the AL East. But you got to like Tampa and Toronto and their chances with the wild card. There in the American League. It's tight in the Central with Cleveland over Minnesota and the White Sox. Houston obviously has pretty much the West sewn up with that division. But St. Louis, 5.5 game lead over the Brewers right now. So they need to keep winning to hold on to that.
That extra wild card has made the races very significant. And as we've been saying for the last few weeks, especially in regards to the Mets-Braves race, the loser of the division will be in the playoffs. There's no question about that. But when you win the division, you get that bye.
Yep.
We know the top 2 get a bye. We know the Dodgers are going to be one. The Mets or the Braves will be the other. The other one's going to have to play a dogfight in that first round.
No doubt about it. He's Willy Donick. He's Derek Mason. I'm Chase McCabe. Coming up next, Bill Barnwell. We talked about this yesterday on our show. Stillman & Company will get into that because Bill Barnwell predicts the Titans will lose more games in 2022. They will talk about that. Coming up next, Stillman & Company on 102.5, 106.3, The Game.
We out.